Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes.
Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great podcast for you today. CNN is reporting that the U.S. Department of Energy is now believing in the lab leak theory. In 2021, Forbes said the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis is a conspiracy theory, not science. Fast forward 2 years and they're saying, timeline, how the COVID lab leak origin theory went from conspiracy theory to government debate. Isn't that just fascinating? I'm also going to react to Woody Harrelson's big pharma cartel joke that he told on SNL. Ron DeSantis is taking on Disney, taking away a lot of their special protections that they had in Florida. We'll cover that.
There's a new sheriff in town and accountability will be the order of the day.
And El Salvador went from the murder capital of the world to 300 days without a homicide. Incredible. And Reuters and mainstream media is trying to spin it as if they're doing some sort of disservice.
It's believed to be the largest prison in the Americas with a capacity for 40,000 people. And it's the latest step in a controversial crackdown on crime that's caused the country's prison population to soar.
We'll talk about that as well as the ongoing Trump versus DeSantis feud. God bless you. Welcome to the show. Here's a quick report I made on the U.S. Department of Energy report. The U.S. Energy Department said this week that it assesses COVID-19 likely resulted from lab leak, furthering U.S. intel divide over virus origin. Yesterday's conspiracy theories are now mainstream CNN articles with opinions by the U.S. government. Now, according to that article, it says the U.S. Department of Energy has assessed that the COVID-19 pandemic most likely came from a laboratory leak in China, although it said it had low confidence on a scale of medium to high. It wasn't that long ago that Facebook considered this a crackpot idea in which they deleted thousands of videos talking about this exact thing. I'm sure I've had videos censored also. Does anybody remember when the incompetent imbeciles at NPR wrote a smear article about me for being one of the most popular posts in which I shared actually a CNN article about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Despite the fact that I shared a CNN article, they still tried to smear me to their audience as a conspiracy theorist because they're either incompetent at best or full-blown psychopaths at worst. Does the media realize that they're no longer the trusted experts when they constantly lie, constantly cover up, and punish other people for being years before them? They don't do journalism anymore. They're basically gatekeepers for big pharma and the narrative that they've already decided with no sort of journalistic integrity or curiosity for the truth. What do you think about this story that was once considered a conspiracy theory that's now being reported by CNN and the U.S. Department of Energy?
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's live episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. I have about 5 stories, and then I'm going to break them down into smaller clips for YouTube and Facebook, so I hope you enjoyed that format. The first one, I think these 2 screen caps really encapsulated the best. I'm not going to spend too much time because this is kind of obvious stuff, but I saw today with Julius, he did a screenshot of these 2, so I'm going to hold the first one up. They put this one up. It says the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis is a conspiracy theory, not science. That's in 2021. So Forbes is like, listen, the lab leak theory, that's just like pure conspiracy. It's not science. And now Forbes says, timeline, how the COVID lab leak origin story went from conspiracy theory to government debate. So, just don't even talk about it. Not a possibility to. Here's how let us tell you how to think, people. This is how it all broke down. For years, they tried to say that science doesn't have debate or hypothesis or discussion. There's no sort of controversy. It's just whatever the government or the corporate media tells you. And even if there's 10, 100, 1,000, 10 million, 100 million scientists or humans that disagree with them, they control the narrative of science, and any thought of disagreeing with that is just pure conspiracy theory. I mean, this is the narrative that they told us. And my audience knows this. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we understand that there's people with bad theories. We understand that there is sloppy reporting. And since everybody has a cell phone and a pen, anybody could be a writer, a journalist, or make videos at this time. So there are people who are sloppy, but the media totally overplayed their hand, and they're perhaps the sloppiest of all. And they've been heavily exposed. So without spending too much time, the Department of Energy now is floating the idea of the lab leak origin story. The ex-CDC director, Robert Redfield, years ago said that. there's a lot of debates that go on as far as what's going on here. Some people believe, I think, in terrain theory that's been heavily censored and banned at all. But I'll just say this. In 2020, I had a bunch of videos taken down. I never said it was a lab leak for sure. I don't do that type of reporting personally. I just said, here's what Bill Gates said, here's what they said, here's what's going on, here's what, they're not reporting. And they had the audacity, Facebook and others, to delete videos of mine with millions of views saying, oh, you can't say that, even though my reporting was accurate. And people like Rochelle Walensky, Rachel Maddow, we've all seen the clips, Joe Biden, they gave advice or even scientific analysis that was completely false. So the question is what's going to be done about this, because the obvious backpedaling is going on. Now New York Times is talking about efficacy of masks. I remember YouTube was trying to basically suspend me for a week, or they did, over saying something similar, even though I never even said that. So it's like, now they're saying what we said years ago. Now, the question is accountability. What will be done about it? I saw Chip Roy. He's one of the good Republicans, it seems like, in office. He said, we need accountability for COVID tyranny, and I agree with that. We don't need to shame people who got injected or have a debate about that. I mean, you can, but I would say, try to treat each other with respect if you can. But we also don't want to be soft. They're like, oh, we need amnesty. They're writing articles. Now we need it. We really don't need amnesty. And I'm not trying to just fight over what happened in 2020 forever. But what I do want is accountability. If there's no accountability for what Big Pharma did, if there's no accountability for what government did, if there's no accountability for what mainstream media did and social media did, then it's just going to keep happening over and over again. So what we need is accountability. And, I will say before I play the next clip and move on, there are some positive things that I'm noticing. I think CNN, their credibility is absolutely destroyed. No one cares about all of the people who work there. And a lot of the people who work there don't even work there anymore. Like Cuomo, Stelter, maybe he does work there. Who cares, right? I don't even know if they work there because nobody really gives a crap. So you do see this formatting of the media. The people do have more power. A lot of other media outlets that are independent or self-funded are starting to gain a lot of influence, and that's why they went so hard, is because they were losing influence. But, still what they did was wrong, and I don't see it stopping unless they get held accountable to some extent or enough people realize. So let me know what you think in the comments. I got 5 stories to go through, so that's the story. The Department of Energy is now floating the idea of lab leak. Why do you think they would say that? What do you think happened? And when you look at all that sort of stuff, corruption was all over it. You can't sue Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson under the PrEP Act. Now they're adding it to the childhood vaccine schedule, which means you probably can't sue them under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. So they've gained this liability shield. This wasn't a free market capitalist product from Big Pharma. It was a socialist, in my opinion, communist ploy where they got government funding, and everything has been not under their own merit, but government subsidized. You have, I believe Moderna is part owned by the NIH, which is government. So you have the Moderna patent has been fought in court by the government. And also the patent on what the technology of the vaccine is from like the 2010s is being sued. Moderna's suing Pfizer. So you have a whole crap show going on, and they just want us to believe that this was all just this spontaneous coincidence that just happened. We made mistakes. We did bad reporting. We covered it up. We took your income. We ruined your life. We won't let you travel. That all just coincidentally happened as Pfizer made tens of billions of dollars, government contracts made a fortune, and 2 of the biggest vaccine companies are at odds in court because they both want the money. Oh yeah, it's just all this stupid spontaneous coincidence, and anybody who sees otherwise is a conspiracy theorist. We know that they don't care, but if they actually cared, they would tell the truth, and a lot of the conspiracy theories would die, and the ones that didn't die would look stupid. But because the mainstream media are perhaps the most goofy and fake of the conspiracy theories, just because they wear suits and talk all proper doesn't mean they're not pushing stupid conspiracy theories. That's why a lot of people have called the mainstream media Blue Anon. Instead of QAnon, they're Blue Anon. It's like the dumbest theories of all come from suit and tie idiots and imbeciles at mainstream media who think that they have some ounce of, integrity left. It's just embarrassing. Speaking of which, I saw Woody Harrelson was on SNL, and this was going viral, so we'll play it and I'll react real quick. This was his little joke about the pandemic.
Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes. And people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is going to believe that crazy idea?
So that was the joke of basically like, oh, I got a movie script, and it was about locking people in their house until they took all the big pharma cartels drugs over and over, and then they could get let out. And his joke was like, who would believe that script? Sadly, this is the only way you could really talk about this stuff in the mainstream media, is you have to be sarcastic or do a parody, because if you actually just say it normally, they try to censor you and ruin your life. So, comedy is perhaps the best remedy for this psychotic behavior that they've done. And I mean, it is really true. I remember when the lockdowns were first ending, when everybody got vaccinated, I remember people around me, like, I'll never forget it, because I was at some sort of outdoor party, and I'm not going to say who, but I'm going to say someone anonymous, and nobody knows who this person is anyway. I don't even know who they are. But they came up to me at like this outdoor party, and they were like, oh, I could take my mask off now because I'm vaccinated. And like, they just were so pompous. It was like they believed the big pharma propaganda and the government propaganda. If you go get your Moderna and your Pfizer injections, you'll be set free. And they thought they were so much better than me and everyone else. And it was like 2 weeks later, after everybody goes and gets the pharma product, it's like this game of musical chairs. Like, nope, you're back in the house. Nope, the lockdown's back. Nope, you got to put a mask on. And it's like 3 injections later, they're still being terrorized by the government. They're like, wait, I thought I got the freedom. It's like, is that really how it worked? Now they have that new Pfizer product that they're pushing. What's it called? I'm trying to think. It's some sort of Pfizer pill. People in the comments will know what it is. It's like Fauci got sick and had a relapse and took the Pfizer pill, and then he took it's this whole like cycle of like, you get your COVID vaccines, you get 2, you get 3, you get 4, you get them every time they say them, you're sick with the thing, then you go and get the new Pfizer pill, and then you have a relapse or a breakthrough case, and now you go back. It's like, Woody Harrelson's joke is funny because it's accurate and trolly about what really went on, and what is there really left to be said? I mean, it's a confusing time, and I think a lot of people are awake to it, but maybe it's ignorance is bliss. Sometimes it's just easier to play along with the system when your job's in the system, when your friends are in the system. It's hard to kind of break out of the quote unquote matrix when, there's a huge cost. It's like 2 parallel realities controlled by artificial intelligent algorithms and social media. And if you're in one algorithm and everybody in your life is in that, like, do you really believe that? Maybe people are just uneducated and being fed what they want to hear, or maybe people are just playing dumb. I don't know. Let me know what you think. To me at this point, it's not 2020 anymore. It's so obvious. It's so blatant. Now all these people on SNL, etc., can make the jokes that we've been making, and it's like, ha 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 ha, yeah, like, let's just go on to the next thing. I agree with Chip Roy and others. There needs to be some sort of accountability because, that was nuts. And it's still going on, by the way, in many places. And in America. I don't think you could travel to America if you're unvaccinated and you're not from here. So we're one of the most tyrannical countries in the world. And we're also one of the big pharma capital of the world. Coincidence. Our politicians are lobbied by big pharma, #1 lobbyist in Washington. Oh, that must just be a coincidence. No, our country is just like El Salvador. That's the next story. Used to be the drug capital of the world. This is the big pharma capital of the world. Hold on, I'm going to check real quick. I think my Facebook video went down, so I guess we're not on Facebook anymore. Hold on, let me check. Unbelievable. Let's see. I guess did I get banned? Was it a copyright situation for maybe playing that clip? I don't really know, but let's see. Are we off face? Oh yeah. My video is blocked and can't be viewed by other viewers. Very nice. All right, so I guess we're only on YouTube now. I guess I'll have to upload some of this stuff on Facebook later, maybe with some sort of copyright block. So my audience has been cut in half. It's always fun to talk about this stuff. They just try to ruin your life. But I guess mainstream media can cover this stuff, no problem. But when I do it, there's a copyright strike, right? Anyway, we'll just go on to the next clip anyway. I guess I can't play news clips or something. Everybody else can, but I can't. El Salvador was the murder capital of the world. Pretty incredible stuff. So everybody knows, or most people know, that they had, I believe, the #1 crime rate in the world per capita. And recently, Bloomberg and others have reported that El Salvador hails 300 homicide-free days. Insane. So they went from the murder capital of the world to not a single murder or homicide in 300 days. Absolutely incredible. You would think that the media would be like, wow, this is amazing. You cleaned up one of the most crime-ridden, gang-ridden places in the world. But instead, they're actually smearing El Salvador and trying to make it seem as if it's some sort of unethical human rights violation that they're doing. Let's take a watch from Reuters, and then we'll read the headline.
Inmates stripped to their shorts and with their heads shaved to what's been dubbed the country's new mega prison. It just opened. It's believed to be the largest prison in the Americas with a capacity for 40,000 people, and it's the latest step in a controversial crackdown on crime that's caused the country's prison population to soar. Human rights organizations have reported that innocent people have been caught up in the law enforcement campaign.
So that's how they're trying to spin it. I'm going to read the Reuters headline. Reuters said, El Salvador's government moved thousands of suspected gang members to a newly opened mega prison, the latest step in a controversial crackdown on crime that has caused the Central American nation's prison population to soar. So I'm going to repeat this, and then we're going to listen to the president of El Salvador on Tucker Carlson a couple months ago explain how he's had so much success. They went from the #1 murder capital in the entire world per capita, more dangerous than war-torn countries, and they have 300 homicide-free days. I mean, this is like beyond incredible. It's like going from worst to best. And the media, Reuters, is smearing it as if they're doing some sort of disservice to their people. It's absolutely insane. It's unexpected, but we do need to wake people up to who the media really is, because it's almost like they want you to live in a hellhole. I think they do. Here is Tucker talking to El Salvador's president. Here's how he did it.
Focused very specifically on crime, gangs, murder. Is that correct? And why did you do that? Why that issue?
Well, not only on crime, of course. We focus on other issues: education, health, public works, investment, tourism, infrastructure, etc. But of course, crime is the most important thing. I mean, you might enjoy a road or a beach, but that's if you're alive. So of course, the lives of the people are the most important thing. So that's why we focus on crime more. But of course, we did focus on all the other issues as well.
You'll never hear a Democrat say stuff like that. He's like, we focus on all this stuff, but crime is not most important, because if you're not alive in our country, it doesn't matter what you can do. Nothing matters if you're not alive. That's rhetoric you'll only hear, unfortunately, in America. I think on the conservative side, Democrats are completely naive and foolish. But let's listen to how he did it, because this is the human rights violation that Reuters is complaining about, etc. Here's how he went from the murder capital of the world to 300 days of no murders. It's truly, truly incredible in a country that is riddled with gangs, or at least was before he took office.
So you've threatened to cut off food to gang members in prison if they don't stop the killings on the outside. Yeah. Do you think that they are directing those killings? They're responsible for them, and do you think this will work?
Well, at the beginning they were ordering the killings from the prisons. In the prisons they had, if you see most of the prisons in Latin America, they're like headquarters for crime. They'll be there, yes. They have phones, internet access, computers, they will give orders from the inside to the outside. You can find everywhere in Central and Latin America, you can find all of those examples. Now in El Salvador, communicating to the outside, it's impossible. You can't communicate from a prison to the outside. The internet access is blocked. It's impossible. So, but still, all these gang members are the bosses of the other gang members outside. So of course, gang members outside resent if you, and won't like if you do something to their bosses inside the prisons. So one of the things we did was we threatened gang members outside that we will take retaliation with their people inside if they continue the killings of innocent people in El Salvador. That actually, if some people don't know this, but El Salvador was actually the murder capital of the world. I mean,
Yes.
we were a lot more dangerous than Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, you name it.
So he cracked down on crime, went for the gang heads, and then basically told the people outside, if you retaliate because of what we're doing, we're going to do something to them inside. He went hardcore on the gangs. Here's the thing. In a perfect world, we could just all lick lollipops and eat, omelets or whatever and hold hands and do fun stuff. But we don't live in a perfect world. So in order to actually get rid of crime, you have to make it harder for the criminal than you do for the average person. When you look at certain Democrat areas, I want to take homelessness because crime and homelessness, in my opinion, are similar. That it's easier to solve than the media and Democrats and even Republicans will lead on. So with homelessness, I believe I could clean up Los Angeles in a year if I had the power to do so and activists, etc., didn't stop me. Why is there so much homelessness? I went to Florida, which it's not perfect. There's also crime. There's also a bunch of weird stuff going on. Florida's kind of crazy, but there's not as many homeless people in certain cities, even though it's hot. Well, that's hot and this is hot. How come there's not as much? There's some, but not as much. It's because they try to disallow it, it seems like. I ask people there and it's like, oh, they tell them to clean it up because they don't want that in tourist areas. But in LA, it's like they just allow it. So it's two different methods. It's basically like in Democrat areas in a lot of places, you can't clean it up. You're not allowed to. In certain areas, it's public property. And the law says that if I were to try to clean up the homelessness and make my community safer and nicer, that I could get sued. So you have the mayor of certain areas. They know they want to get rid, but they can't get rid of it. In certain areas of Florida, it's actually the alternate policy. It's like you can't allow that because it affects tourism and business. So then they don't want it. It's not like they're throwing people into a fire pit or something, but it's like keep it moving, go here, but you can't just sit there. In Democrat areas, it's the opposite. Sit here and you can't move them. You get in trouble, it goes viral, someone yells at you for moving. It's easy to fix this stuff. You just have to tell people it's not okay to do this. But when you talk to Democrats, listen, I understand that the prison system's corrupt. I understand that the war on drugs in many ways was a failure. I believe Big Pharma wants you on their pills and they don't give a crap about what's actually better for you. So I agree with a lot of what Democrats are saying, but what they don't understand is that murder actually happens. If you go to New Orleans, if you go to Detroit, if you go to Los Angeles, if you go to the bad areas, even parts of Florida, it's not all peaches and cream. Everything's not a resort. There's some bad hombres out there of all kinds, okay? So it's like, yes, I don't want someone to go to jail for smoking weed on a corner, but if somebody's killing somebody, they need to know that that's not okay. If they're robbing a store, just shooting an innocent store owner in the face with a sawed-off shotgun, this type of stuff needs to stop. But sadly, I believe in a lot of areas, there isn't this message that it's wrong. It's like the message is like, oh, the prison system's corrupt. Oh, they're human rights violations for gang members that are killing people. I'm not saying we can't have compassion, but at the end of the day, if you want a safe community and crime's rising to the levels of El Salvador or the levels of New Orleans, or, you take the top 20 worst cities in the, it's like, where's the enforcement? You gotta, for the good people of that society, for the good kids, etc., really go hard. Someone's going to win that territory. So you got to go hard in the paint. Let them know that it's not allowed and let them know that there will be severe, severe consequences. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be that in this country. So I think El Salvador is kind of showing people the blueprint. If I can do this to the most dangerous country in the world, you could do it to a city that's not even that dangerous in comparison. But the problem is Democrats don't want to do it. I believe a lot of them are naive and foolish on the voter level, and they just have like this, fake compassion sort of thing. Like, oh, I want to help. And it's like, it's not helpful to have a shitty city. Like, clean the city up, make it safer and nicer. That's better. But on the higher levels, I do think it's a lot of corruption, a lot of lobbying money. And, some people are willing to hurt society in order for self-gain, power, fame, money, etc. And I think you see a lot of that in politics. But congratulations to El Salvador's president for honestly, I'm not easily impressed. I almost seem like a hater sometimes because I'm not impressed by a lot of things, but I am extremely impressed, if that's true, that he went from the most dangerous country in the world to 300 days with no murders. That's fantastic, incredible success on a world scale that we haven't seen in a long time. That guy loves Bitcoin. He loves cleaning up, gang violence. Incredible, incredible president, if that's true. Wow. That's one of the most amazing stories that not a lot of people are telling. So hopefully we can figure stuff out like that in America, because life is good, but it could be a lot better so easily. It's incredible. All right, let's get to the last story, and I have two kind of stories for the podcast. I'm going to kind of combine them. The first one is DeSantis versus Disney. It seems as if I'm going to read a report and then I'm going to let him talk for himself real quick. You can hear what he's saying. According to Orlando local news, control over Disney's special district officially went into the hands of Florida as Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill renaming and remaking Reedy Creek. The governor signed HB 9B during a news conference Monday at Reedy Creek Fire Station number 4. The bill was approved during a special session last month to give DeSantis full authority to appoint a district's 5-member board of supervisors and change the name to the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. So it seems to be a few changes, but the main change seems to be there's some sort of board of advisors over what Disney used to basically control as their own little state. And now there's going to be some sort of pushback or advisory. So here's a little clip of DeSantis talking, and then we'll go from there.
You know, I've always been very proud of our parks. I've been proud of so many people that have been able to come to Florida over the years. I mean, it's almost like a rite of passage for people to be able to come down here. And I think a lot of families have had really great experiences for many times, you know, but when you lose your way, you know, you gotta have people that are going to tell you the truth. And so we hope that they can get back on. But I think all these board members very much would like to see the type of entertainment that all families can appreciate. But I do think the business acumen and the local government knowledge and the legal knowledge, we got people that are very smart in the law. In this, there can be some different things. If they're eventually going down the road where they're negotiating with the counties to dissolve the state's role and just give it to the counties permanently, which, you know, we would like to do at some point. We're only going to do that if there's no problems or no burdens placed on the taxpayers. But they have the ability to do that. So I think they've got great experience, and they're from, you know, we do have some people from Central Florida. We've got people from other parts of Florida. So I think it's a really good mix.
So a lot of this, I don't know if it started at this point, but it became mainstream when there was the Don't Say Gay bill. Disney started getting involved in the sexual, I would say, agenda of children, you know, and Ron kind of stepped in, and then the media was like, oh my God, he hates all gay people. And it was like, no, I just want to stop corporations from pushing this on children, etc. You know, it became really hot, and they asked him if he did this just for that reason. He said no, but DeSantis apparently wants to put Disney back where it can be entertainment for the whole family, and he thinks that it's going too far. We'll see what it really does, but it looks like a step to basically take a little bit of power away from Disney. They got this special power decades ago. It seems like they're abusing it, and he's taking some back. So we'll see if it works out. We'll see how much it does, but that's the story that's going around today, that he's kind of taking steps to rein Disney's special power in. With that being said, I want to end the podcast real quick with the Trump versus DeSantis sort of beef that's going on and how I think it's going to become like a controlled opposition circus. I'm not saying this to just be like contrarian. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people are just wrong or basic and simplistic. So everything seems contrarian to everybody. Like people are like, oh my God, you hate. It's like when I do reporting on Big Pharma, it's good reporting. When I do reporting on Mitch McConnell, it's great. When I call out the corruption of this, it's great. But when I do it for people that, you know, a lot of people like, all of a sudden now I'm not a journalist. I'm just a hater. So I find that kind of funny. But with the Trump versus DeSantis thing, there's a few angles to it. First off, you know, one of the things that I'm seeing in Trump influencer world and with Trump is he's starting to push the narrative that DeSantis is going to be controlled because DeSantis is getting a lot of big donors and donor money, right? We all think DeSantis is going to run for president. It's probably true. And instead of waiting until next year to debate DeSantis on a stage, Trump is getting ahead of it, basically calling him a pedophile, saying he locked down too long, he closed beaches, he pushed the vaccine too hard. I mean, honestly, Trump is accusing DeSantis of a lot of things he's doing. It's very like, you know, it's very rules for radicals. It's like, let's accuse him of things that I also do. It's very weird. But in general, Trump's getting ahead of it because he understands DeSantis is a massive threat not just in the election, but in order to win an election, whether Trump wants to admit it or not, you need a lot of money, right? You need to raise it from the people, from the donors, from the PACs, from corporations, wherever you get it from. And DeSantis is sucking away a lot of donors that Trump actually had. So some of them are new donors that just like DeSantis, but a lot of these donors actually previously supported Trump, and Trump's just kind of pissed because he's taking his money. I get it. I'm not knocking it. It's true. Here's where I agree with people, and here's where I disagree with people. And I pray that people wake up, because if there's this fake controlled opposition fight between Trump and DeSantis, it doesn't really matter what happens. It's going to be like, and I'm not saying they're the same. I think they're different, but like Romney versus Obama, it doesn't matter. Romney versus McCain, it doesn't matter. And the media is always controlling the narrative of what it means to do this fight. And when you're not getting to the root of what's actually going on, it really doesn't matter. We're going to waste a year and a half. And because a lot of influencers, not all, there's a lot of ethical people, but a lot of influencers are just like right-wing NPCs. If Trump does it, they do it. For example, I think it's hilarious, and I don't think you need to support DeSantis or Trump. I don't really care. But people loved Ron DeSantis. Like, all these Trump influencers were obsessed with Ron DeSantis. He's the best governor. He's so great. And the second, it's like an NPC. It's like the second the media says you like masks, left-wingers like masks. You don't they're controlled by the media. A lot of influencers I'm seeing are controlled by Trump. You know, he snaps his fingers and says, you don't like DeSantis anymore. And they go from like slobbering over DeSantis to being like, oh, we hate DeSantis just like Trump does. And because Trump is being so vicious to DeSantis, calling him a pedophile, etc., now all the influencers are doing the same to other influencers. So like the second Trump snaps his fingers, these people just turn into like baby Trumps. It's like, oh, well, if Trump's bashing DeSantis, we need to bash everybody that's supporting DeSantis. And it's getting really ugly. But here's my main issue. It's like right-wing NPC. Like, you don't like them. You like them. Okay, tell me what to like now. Like, have a mind of your own. Have a brain of your own. You know, with that being said, I'm glad people are criticizing and questioning, or rather scrutinizing, Ron DeSantis over his donor money. Because it's 100% true. If DeSantis takes hundreds of millions of dollars from donors, it's very likely that he's going to be controlled by the donors, whether it's Ken Griffin or Schwartzman or who, you know, I don't even know that much about these people, but the more you study, the more you'll find out what they want with the money they're giving to DeSantis. And if you take $1 million from Pfizer, like Trump and Biden did, usually you do them a favor. So if you're taking even more money from that, from a super PAC or a donor, you're going to do something that they want you to do. So I think it's totally healthy and okay that these Trump influencers are questioning DeSantis and if he's going to fold or be a phony because of the money he's getting. But here's where the controlled opposition circus starts. Trump took over $100 million from corp. I'm not hating. I'm just doing journalism for those who can't handle it. Trump took over $100 million from mega corporations. Trump took money from Sheldon Adelson, the biggest mega donor. He's like the George Soros of the right wing. You know, Trump took the money too. That's why Trump employed a bunch of bad people. Like, oh, he's such an outsider. No, he named 3 people that weren't swampers. He hired lobbyists, Mitch McConnell's wife. Trump's entire cabinet from front to back was a bunch of swampers. People are like, oh, Anomaly, you don't understand. Ron DeSantis is going to be the Mike Pompeo. It's like, okay, Trump hired Mike Pompeo. How are you going to call DeSantis Mike Pompeo and not acknowledge that Trump gave Mike Pompeo more power than almost anybody? So I'm okay with calling out DeSantis. I think it's healthy and necessary. But the delusion of a lot of these like Trump bootlickers, where it's like they'll cry about DeSantis hanging out with Jeb Bush, but they won't cry about Trump hanging out with what's his name? The Lindsey Graham. It's just like a fake circus. Like, they're accusing DeSantis of doing everything that Trump does with zero self-awareness to realize that Trump did and does all the same things that they're accusing him of. So if you're going to call out DeSantis for taking the donor money, you also have to realize when Trump takes donor money. If you're going to call out DeSantis for him cozying up to Jeb Bush, you have to call out Trump for cozying up to McConnell, McCarthy, Romney, who he endorsed, Romney McDaniel, who he also endorsed, and Lindsey Graham, who he gives a platform to and is like good friends with. So it's going to turn into this whole fake fight because Trump's accusing DeSantis of everything that he does. DeSantis just isn't talking because he's like got bigger things to do right now. All the Trump influencers have no mind or brain of their own. They're just like emotional followers who just now, because Trump's being nasty, just like an NPC, they start being nasty at the same time that Trump is, but 2 weeks ago they weren't. So it's like this fake little thing where I'm over it. It's like, I don't care if you vote for Trump. I don't care if you vote for whatever his name is, DeSantis, but just be honest about it. If you're going to call out DeSantis for all the donor money, also call out Trump. If you're going to call out DeSantis for possibly being compromised if he gets the position, call out Trump for actually being compromised when he did it 4 years ago. The easiest thing that I explained in my last one was when everybody was complaining about Pete Buttigieg. I'm all for it. Pete Buttigieg sucks. He doesn't deserve the position. He's incompetent. He's inexperienced. He's a clown. Pete Buttigieg does not deserve that position. But if you're a Trump voter who complains about Pete Buttigieg, but you don't complain about the fact that Trump put Mitch McConnell's wife in that position, you think Mitch McConnell's wife did any better than Pete Buttigieg? Of course not. But here's the thing. This is how they get you. The lobbyists control both parties. The lobbyists control Trump. The lobbyists control DeSantis. The lobbyists control Biden. But everybody thinks it's not happening because it's Team Red versus Team Blue. It's embarrassing at this point. If you're 20 years old, it's fine. If you've only been in politics for a few years, we all took a little time to learn. But if you've been talking about this stuff since 2016 and you're still falling for this trap, it's just like a waste of my time. So it's like, I don't want to fight over Trump and DeSantis. Oh, you like DeSantis? I prefer him slightly over Trump for certain reasons. But as far as, am I obsessed with him? Do I want you to not call out his lobbying money? No, that's fine. But you can't do that and not talk about all the other stuff. That's all I'm trying to say. So, I don't want to someone said it took you a while to realize. Well, to be fair, I kind of saw through a lot of the deception when I was like 19, but then, I thought Bernie and Trump, I thought they were both outsiders for a short period of time because I was like, okay, well, he's taking on Hillary. Wait, no, he's not. Oh, Trump's taking on the establishment. Wait, no, he's not. So yeah, I've gone through it. I'm not shaming people for being on their journey, but I'm just saying we've been doing this for 6 years. Let's make some progress, okay? If you've been doing it for a couple of years, it's okay to be deceived for a little bit, but it's like, are we going to really run the same script for 20 years? It's time to wake up. So that's my only issue with the whole battle with Trump and DeSantis is like, just use the same energy you have to criticize DeSantis with Trump. Because I see it as like, Trump has kind of like mentally manipulated people into thinking he's not that person. So it's like, I'll give you an example. If I said, and I took away all emotion, all whatever, and I said, hey, this is what Operation Warp Speed is. I'm not talking about the mandates. That's a whole new level of corruption, but just Operation Warp Speed and all that stuff. If I gave you the policy, if I gave you how it happened, the rollout, etc., with the military, and I said, hey, this is what this is. Hillary Clinton did it. Every Republican would say, oh my God, every Trump supporter, that's corrupt, that's terrible. If Biden did it, that's terrible. If McConnell did it, that's terrible. If DeSantis did it, they'd probably say it's terrible. But because Donald Trump did it, all these influencers will make excuses for it. Trump has power over people's brains on the right, where if he does something corrupt, it's 3D chess. But if anybody else does it, it's just bad. If he takes donor money, he has to. But if DeSantis does it, he's bad. If he works with those donors and does what they want, he's not being controlled. But if DeSantis does it, it's him. Trump has this weird, like, special Disney privilege over people's brains where it's like no matter what he does, it's just all part of the plan, even if 95% of his cabinet swampers, even if he takes $100 million from lobbyists, even if he rolls out the vaccine, if he brags about it harder than Bill Gates, if he lies about it, if he accuses DeSantis of doing everything that he did, that's all okay, but it's just not okay when other people do it. It's turning him into the most dangerous candidate, not because Trump's that bad, but because his base is so like brainwashed by his personality and rhetoric that they've completely ignored a lot of what he's doing. And I have too for years because I thought he was going to like end the fourth quarter with something amazing. Personally, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give him some leeway on that. Like, let's see what he does when push comes to shove. And when push came to shove in 2020, he became 20 times worse, and just not only with the pandemic and what's going on, but just in his rhetoric and stuff. And you don't have to agree with me. I don't really care. Some people here are religious, some people aren't. But I personally believe that God blesses certain people. And I know like people will be like, oh my God, that's crazy. But in my opinion, Trump was getting away with a lot from 2016 to 2019 because he was a lot more righteous. He was a lot more honest. And you don't have to believe this, but I believe if you stand with the truth, if you stand with God, if you stand with what's right, you are protected to some extent. Like if you do the wrong thing all the time, whether you call it karma or whether you call it what comes around goes around, I believe that. I believe treat others the way you want to be treated. I believe that if you work hard enough, you can make it. And I believe if you do the right, nobody's perfect, but if you try to be a good person, good will come back to you. Although Trump has a lot of character flaws. From 2016 to 2019, he was way more honest. And I believe he turned into a phony in 2020. And he's still a phony, and he's still a bad person. And he lost the election. People are like, well, I don't think he has the same protection that he used to, because he's not as good of a person as he is. And now Trump wants everyone to be loyal to him, but he's not loyal. He wants everybody to lick his boots, but he doesn't really do anything back. So he's losing a lot of his friends, donors, supporters, not just because they're all corrupt. He's just not really a good person. And it's like he's just spiraling and getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And you think he's going to have the same blessing by God? You think the guy who was Trump in 2018 is going to have the same blessings he does when he runs around saying the vaccine saved the world, it's the greatest human achievement, and he's the father of the vaccine? You think that guy's going to be blessed by the Lord? I don't think so. I'm not saying he's not blessed. He's lived an amazing life, but it's like, I truly believe that his ship sank in 2020, not just because he's a huge victim of the deep state, but because he lost the one thing that he had over them. He might not have the media that they have, but he had the truth. If you stand with the truth, it doesn't matter if you're alone in a room with 300 million people, there's something real about it. And when you lose your realness, when you go from being real Trump on the I would say on the cusp of every topic to like just a vaccine salesman who yells at DeSantis, to me, like the energy and the momentum and the blessings are just not the same. So I don't really see where this is all going, but it's going to be a really ugly couple years because he's going for low blows. DeSantis is not really talking. The people who like Trump just do what he does. So as soon as Trump starts doing low blows, they do low blows. And my only message is this. I don't care who you vote for. I'm not going to shame you into as a person. I see the pros and cons to both, but everything that Trump's doing, from the donor money to the selling out, to the working with deep state, to the cozying up to the swampers, everything he's talking about, from the vaccine to the lockdown, to the beaches, to the donor money, to the Jeb Bush, Trump does all those same things. So if his base is going to act like DeSantis is doing it and Trump doesn't do it, it's a whole fake circus. This whole 2 years is going to be a total waste of your time. You might as well just not pay attention, because it's like running in circles on a carousel. So I pray that the same ones who call out DeSantis figure out that Trump's doing the same thing. If you don't, you're aiding and abetting circular motion, and the name of the game is so simple. Lobbyists come in, they pay both parties, the parties do what they do. Trump did it, Obama did it, Biden did it. The difference is Trump said he wasn't going to do it, just like Obama said change is going to come, just like DeSantis says he's going to be different. Maybe he will. Maybe DeSantis will get swallowed by donors just like Trump did. I'm not really sure, but it's not my job to make excuses for someone who sells out. It's my job to report it. So, I see this as going absolutely nowhere if the base believes that Trump is this innocent victim outsider when he's just as complicit as DeSantis in every way. Just call it like you see it. If not, the Republican Party is toast. What happened to the Tea Party movement? The Tea Party movement had all this momentum. The Ron Paul movement had all this momentum. Alex Jones had all this momentum. And they all got swallowed by Trump. Trump took all those movements and said, I'm your guy. And then he ran around selling vaccines with Fauci and Bill Gates and told his advisors like Peter Navarro to shut their mouth when they were criticized. Trump's a phony. If you want to believe he's not, whatever. It's like, I'll be fine. People are like, oh, you're so negative. It's like, Biden's in office now. Is he ruining? No, I just flew across the country. I'll do my business. I'll go on vacation. Biden's not going to stop me from enjoying my life. He might steal some of my money and be corrupt, but, I don't really care if Trump or DeSantis wins. It's like, it's not going to ruin my life. But if you think you're accomplishing anything special or outside, you're not. So we'll see what happens. But I see that as the fake controlled circus. Trump is has no self-awareness and just blames DeSantis for what he's doing. And all the Trump followers just follow Trump and say the same things he's saying with no scrutiny of him. It's a bizarre sort of algorithm loop that people are caught in. And you really see it, especially when you tune out of social media for a couple weeks, or you're you really see it more than normal. I took a week break from Twitter, and then right when I log back into Twitter, I could just see the loop that everybody's caught in. It's when I'm not blaming Trump for East Palestine or Palestine, but it's he hired Mitch McConnell's wife. If you only talk about Pete Buttigieg and you don't realize that Trump hired Mitch McConnell's wife, the joke is on you. It just is. It's your Team Red, who ignores corruption and swampers on your side and their team blue, and they make excuses. And here's the fake circus. It's going nowhere. They're going to say Trump killed everybody. You're going to say Biden killed everybody. But the truth is both of the secretaries of transportation don't give a crap about you, and they're not doing anything. And they're both complicit in some sort of way beyond, you know, the corporations and the, so that's the point that I'm trying to make is like, it's all fake. It's, yeah, you could fight, you could gain a little stuff, but like nothing's really going anywhere. It is funny when you kind of like laugh at it. And another thing I wanted to say too was like with the wall, like, you know, this is also why personally I slightly prefer DeSantis. He's better at hiring. Joseph Ladapo's better than anybody Trump hired. He seems like he uses his executive power more efficiently for certain things, like with the Disney stuff. With Trump, I feel like he'd just flail his arms and be like, I can't do anything. But then when the pandemic comes, he had no problem pushing Operation Warp Speed. He had no problem doing universal flu vaccine executive orders. It's like he can't do an executive order to finish the wall, but he has an executive order for big pharma. To me, Trump's kind of like a blithering buffoon. He just like throws his hands, talks a lot, and doesn't do anything. DeSantis, whether I agree or disagree with his executive order, he just kind of does it. So I don't know. Yeah, it's cool to build 80% of a wall, but if you don't finish it, it doesn't matter because eventually a Democrat gets back into office. And look, what's happening with Biden. Millions of people are pouring across the border. Yes, it's Joe Biden's fault, but finish the wall. How come they couldn't finish the wall? Oh, we don't have the power. How do you not have the power? Use some sort of military executive order. It's national security. If you could figure out how to sell vaccines with the military, like Donald Trump did through executive order and fake bills, then you could build. They don't give a crap. It's so fake. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we're going to build the wall. No, you're not. Finish it. Oh, we can't. Yeah, somehow you have no power to do anything that we need, but you have all the power in the world to be a socialist. You can do universal basic income checks, but you can't finish it. To me, it's like WWE, and the more people start lying, the more obvious it gets. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think. I'll read some stuff. Someone said David Knight is smart. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Someone said Katie Hobbs took down a bunch of the wall. Was she even in office until recently? Maybe. Isn't that the person who beat Carrie Lake? Was she even in a position to take the wall down? I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't know. Let me see. He wanted to use the way as a boost employment. I'm not asking people to assume that politicians are going to be perfect, but it's like this is all I'll say. If your strategy is to just repeat what Trump says for the next 2 years and say DeSantis is this person, but Trump is the guy, you're getting conned. You're in a loop. You're in a loop of accusing another guy of what your guy's doing without the ability to also challenge him. And if you don't challenge him, nothing's going to change. That's all you really have. Someone said Walgreens still pushes the vax. I'm sure they do. I see a Gabbard DeSantis civil war. I don't know why they'd fight, but I have no idea what people are going to do. Someone said Trump let BLM burn down America and instituted lockdowns of 2020. Here's another funny part, though. It's like I watched a Trump video, and he did like one of those like campaign videos where he's just sitting alone. And he was like, if I'm president, I'll stop the riots. It's like you were president and you didn't stop the riots. This is the only annoying part. With DeSantis, there's a question mark. What will he do? Because he never had 4 years to be the president. We don't know. With Trump, we do know because he was president. So it's like if DeSantis said, if I was president and I'd stop riots, maybe he's lying. Maybe he's telling the truth. But when Trump says it, I know he's for sure lying because he already was there and he didn't stop it. So, and I'm not even saying that it's his necessary power, but like, it's just such a joke. Like people love a fake show. It's like, it's so fake. It's so obvious, but I guess like some people want to believe in it. I'm over it. I'm just like, it's getting weird. It's a lot of people are programmed, and I think it's not just the media. It's also social media. Like you're in a loop of what you want. Like for instance, on Instagram, what do you see in you don't have to tell me, but what do you see if you're on Instagram in your feed? Your explore feed is all based off what you look at. If it's big booties, you're looking at too many big booties. If it's women with big boobs, you're looking at too many women with big boobs. If it's sports, You're watching a lot of sports. If it's cars, you like cars. The algorithm feeds you what you want to see. My Explore page is not your Explore page. If it's MMA, that means you watch a lot of MMA clips. If it's NBA, you're watching a lot of NBA. So it basically takes your data and then gives you what it thinks you want to see, so you stay on the website so they make as much money as possible. That's what the algorithm is. No one's algorithm is the same. With that being said, everyone's caught in their algorithm loop. If you want to hear people like Cat Turd and El Donaldo Trumpo, people that would literally lick the bottom of Trump's boot and say it tasted like chocolate ice cream, you'll get that type of content. And if you consume that type of content for 2 years, you're going to think those things because that's all you're seeing. And if somebody challenges what you're saying, you're going to think it's a Democrat because you just don't understand that there's also, inter-party corruption or something besides Mitch McConnell. So everybody's kind of caught in their algorithm loop of a sort where it's like, if I come with a piece of information that's contradictory to what people believe, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, like some people just can't handle it because they've spent 2 years telling themselves with their ego that they're so much better than the other side. You can't tell a Democrat the truth because their ego is so big. They're like, I went to college, I have a PhD, I live in San Francisco, and there's poop all over my house. Like, I'm so much better than Republicans because they hate gay people. You can't convince a Democrat they're wrong because they've been so brainwashed into thinking that they're so much better than Republicans. We're so much less racist. We're so much better for the gays. It's ego. Yeah, maybe you're right about a few of those things, but maybe your ego is so big that you can't realize that you're actually wrong about like 90% of policy. And it's the same thing with a lot of people on the right. You can't tell them anything because they're caught in their like fake algorithm loop, and they already think they're better than the left. So it's like, no, Anomaly, we are fighting the left. But what if the left and the right are being controlled by the same people? That is what's happening, Anomaly. It's just not Trump. What if it was Trump too? Now what? I've lost my God, Anomaly. Oh, what do I do now? Who do I believe in? It's like you've made a religion out of a politician. It's not my fault. You tell somebody like that doesn't like have Jesus like worship of Donald Trump, like, oh, they'll be like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll vote for Rand Paul or DeSantis, I don't really know. But you tell somebody that created a religion around the guy that he's, the truth, they can't handle it because it's like it's deeper than just like a love. It's like, no. I don't even know what to like compare it to. Like a 14-year-old who like loves Harry Styles, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, yo, Harry Styles like has a girlfriend. Oh, no, I'm supposed to marry Harry Styles. Oh, my mom told me it's like, I'm sorry, Harry Styles, he has a wife now. You can't marry Harry Styles. Nah, like, it's like equivalent to like a 14-year-old girl who like likes a boy band or something. Like, that's how people see politics. That you can't tell them this stuff. Like, you tell a Democrat like, yo, Donald Trump's not that bad. Like, he's not that bad. And they're like, oh, he is that bad. Oh my gosh, you're a fascist. Like, people are losing their minds over this stuff. And I'm sorry, but like both sides, in my opinion, are screaming mental illness. The craziest, meanest Democrats, they don't hate you. And this is how you can be a little more compassionate. The craziest, meanest, most psychotic Democrats, they actually don't hate you. They hate themselves, okay? And they're projecting their hate and insecurity on you. Anybody that has even an ounce of self-love is not freaking out over a grandma in a MAGA hat in Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not grandma's fault that Donald Trump, so all these Democrats that claim they hate you, they really just hate themselves, okay? And a lot of right-wingers that are losing their minds and they're screaming at everybody and they're acting like psychopaths, they really just hate themselves. You know what I'm saying? They have insecurities that they think that being this active and insane is going to fix their own inner things, and it doesn't work. So it's this like loop of like the people on the left that are psychotic finding the people on the right that are unstable, and they just fight each other on Twitter all day, and I'm over it. It's like, if you want to vote for Trump, I don't care. I'm not going to smear you as a person. I'm just going to do my news reporting. If you want to vote for DeSantis, I understand. I'm not going to smear you. I'm just going to report. But if you can't handle what I'm saying, it's okay. That's normal. There's people I don't like. I'm not mad, but I don't want to be part of this fake fight. You got people online being like, every person who likes DeSantis is paid to like DeSantis. Like, no, some people are on his campaign just like some people are on Trump's campaign, but not everybody. Tens of millions of people are going to vote for Trump and they're not being paid. Tens of millions. It's like saying all Trump supporters are Russian bots. No, millions of people like Donald Trump. Millions of people like Ron DeSantis. Some are being paid, most aren't. Same thing with DeSantis. And now I see, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get in fights and I don't even dislike this person. I like this person. But you have people who work for like literal operative. Like there's Republican, just like there's Democrat PR firms, there's new Republican PR firms that are getting millions of dollars from politicians to basically be a PR team for them, right? That's their job. It's there needs to be that job. It's in Hollywood, but some people who work for like PR operative firms, they're now saying, oh, DeSantis is bringing influencers to dinners to lobby them. That's what Trump does all the time. He's got hundreds of influencers he's lobbied through dinners and Mar-a-Lago visits and coming to Christmas parties. Trump did that. And you have literal operatives, full-time operatives being like, oh, DeSantis is having dinner with people. Yes, he's doing the same thing Trump's doing. I'm not saying you can't call it out, but if you're a political operative, you can't be crying about somebody eating dinner with Ron DeSantis. And if you ate dinner with Donald Trump and that influences your decision, you can't be a hypocrite. This is the problem with politics in America. Everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody has double standards. Nobody can live up to what they dish out. And this is why everybody's so uncomfortable all the time. It's like nobody's perfect. Everybody's flawed. Everybody's sinned. But if you're going to be that big of a hypocrite in the media space or that big of a hypocrite in politics, it's just a fake game. It's just a game everybody's playing. And I'm done playing. Yes, I'm going to do my job. Yes, I'm going to report. Yes, I'm trying to, get better, etc. But I'm not playing this game. I'm not fighting with people who like Trump for 2 years over DeSantis versus Trump, because I don't care that much about DeSantis. I would vote for him over Trump today. Could that change? Absolutely. If Rand Paul runs, am I more likely to support Rand Paul? Absolutely. If that today, I don't make my vote until the day of. I don't endorse people because I think it would affect my job, unless it's such a crazy race, like, if it's Republican versus Democrat and one's really good and one sucks, I'll tell you who I'm voting for. But I'm not this early. I'm not like, there's a lot of people saying everyone who likes DeSantis is paid, yet they've already endorsed Donald Trump. It's like, how could you report the truth when you've endorsed one candidate 2 years before the election? I'm not endorsing Ye or DeSantis or Trump. I have to call it down the middle. If Ye does something I agree with, I'm going to say it. If he does something I disagree with, I'm going to say it. I'm not working for anyone's campaign. I'm not saying you can't work for a campaign. It's just like people working for one campaign are now fighting with the other campaign. It's just ugly. I want no part of it. Let me read a few comments. Someone said Rand Paul would be good, audit or end the Fed. He would be way better than Trump or DeSantis, in my opinion. I would much rather Rand Paul. That's why I don't want to be called a desimp. I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to cry, but it's like, oh, you're desimping. I don't even like DeSantis that much. If the election were today between Trump and DeSantis, I would vote for DeSantis today because he hires better. Joseph Ladapo is better than anyone Trump hired. He is more critical of big pharma than Donald Trump, who's like a vaccine shill, and he's learned nothing. And also another thing that I like better about DeSantis is I like the fact that the base doesn't trust him as much. That's actually a good thing. You shouldn't trust DeSantis and you shouldn't trust Donald Trump. But when people who trust Donald Trump don't trust DeSantis, I'd rather DeSantis get in, because then if DeSantis does shady crap, everybody's going to call it out and have to force him to correct it. But if Trump gets in and does shady crap, it doesn't matter. You got people who say they hate all vaccines and they'd never sell a vaccine, making excuses for the vaccine salesman. If DeSantis did the same thing, they'd be freaking out. It's like a cult. It's like a psycho, brainwashed, movement at this point. And I'm not saying everybody, I'm not saying the casual voter, but in the influencer class, there's a lot of people who just don't want to call out any sort of things Trump does. That makes me rather DeSantis. Like, if people don't like him, good. You shouldn't trust DeSantis or Trump. They're politicians. They're both taking money. They both have done things that are shady. Call it out. But, I don't understand how people think things are going to change if they don't notice it. But anomaly get a moderator? No, it's fine. Someone said TDS, Trump 2024. It's not TDS. It's like that. No offense, but it's like a non-playable character. You know what I'm saying? You're just saying, it's like pull a string and you just say the same three things over and over. You're a right-wing NPC. It's like, it's like Trump likes DeSantis, so I like DeSantis. I love DeSantis. DeSantis is the best governor. He's the greatest governor we've ever had. He's awesome. He's the man. And then Trump's like, I don't like DeSantis. People are like, yeah, I don't like DeSantis. And Trump's like, DeSantis is corrupt. And people are like, I also think DeSantis is corrupt. It's like you're being controlled. If you think DeSantis is corrupt, that's fine. But like, did you come to that conclusion by yourself via research, or do you just do what Donald Trump says? It's like, it's just like how it's going down, but it is what it is. Someone said, what do we do? Just pass up our vote? I vote. I'm not a non-voter, but some non-voters say don't vote. I don't care what you do. I vote. People think I'm saying that when they put all their faith in a candidate. I'm not telling people not to vote, and I'm not telling people not to pay attention. I'm just saying, I've said this so many times, but it's so true. Like in life, you get what you put in. Let's not even talk about politics. If you want to have a successful business, you can do it. People have come from Iran, Afghanistan, China, Japan, Korea, El Salvador, Mexico, and made millions of dollars. I'm not saying money is the most important thing in the world. I'm just saying for this talk, if you want to be good at business, there's different paths you can go in life, but you got to work hard. You have to be self-aware. You have to challenge yourself. You have to be self-correct. You have to have self-esteem. You have to have a low ego to know when you have to move and not just run off a cliff. And that's how you become successful. There is no real shortcut, maybe, but really not really. It's like if you want to take it to that level, these are the steps you have to take. It's the same thing with politics. I'm not telling people not to vote. I'm not telling people not to pay attention. But if you want to call out corruption and if you want change, you have to do that same inner work in politics. If you're only going to call out Pete Buttigieg, but not Mitch McConnell's wife because that's your guy, you're on a carousel. You get what I'm saying? It's like I'm not telling people not to do anything. I'm just telling people to pay attention. It's like if you allow it, they'll do it. Right now, I see this just psychologically and literally. Nothing's going to change because they have people by the balls. Democrats are totally gone. Republicans just turned into Democrats. Obama and Bill Clinton in many ways were more right-wing than Donald Trump was when it came to crime. And when it came, well, not Obama, but Bill Clinton was more right-wing than Trump was when it came to crime. Obama was more right-wing when he got into office as LGBT on the LGBT stuff. He was against gay marriage. Trump is fine with it. So the point that I'm getting to is the right wing just becomes the left wing. We're on a carousel and the entire thing is moving towards hell. It's like the right just becomes the left becomes crazier, the left is brainwashed, and the right doesn't want to hear it. If you tell them it's happening, they freak out at you because they put all their faith in Donald Trump, even though he wasn't able to do anything in 4 years, and the country ended up in a lockdown and a vaccine sale that he was overseeing. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I'm just saying, like, that's what's going on. Like, if you study what's going on, that's what's going on. The left is going further, the right's becoming the left, and nobody has the balls to really do anything about it. So if you're fine with that and you just want to pick a WWE character, it's like Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Undertaker, and you just want to enjoy the fight, then enjoy the fight. But if you think something's going to change off this in a way, it's not really at this moment. So, how are things going to change? From people realizing that it's not what they say it is. Maybe you run for office. Maybe you start a media company. Maybe, maybe you do something in your community. Because right now, I don't, that's just how I see it. So I'm not telling people not to vote. I've never said that. If you don't want to, whatever. But it's like when you take away a part of the equation, people spiral. If you like Joe Biden and I point out that Joe Biden is controlled by lobbyists, there's two ways to go. Oh, Anomaly showed me that Joe Biden's controlled by lobbyists. Thank you for telling me. I'll include that in the arsenal of things that I know. Or if you're obsessed with Joe Biden, like people are obsessed with Trump, and I say, hey, here's the proof that Biden is also controlled by lobbyists and he's really not different than Obama, you spiral only if you believe in Biden so much. You get what I'm saying? The people that are spiraling when I say this, it's because I'm challenging their godlike faith in a politician. So it's like, there's no reason to spiral over, like, if someone's like, hey, like, you like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? And it's like, yeah, she's cool. Oh, she did this. Like, I'm not going to spiral because it's just like, okay, it is what it is. Like Fox News did this. Like, I guess I just don't have that much faith. I don't put my faith in politics. It's the worst place to put your faith in. It's like putting your faith in a freaking car dealership. Oh, it's like, why are people doing this? I don't know. So I don't think there's anything to really freak out about unless your whole world, like you're putting like religious faith in a car salesman, and then you're like unhinged when someone like gives a shred of evidence that's inconvenient. Let me see. Someone said, I'll read this. I'm not, okay, Kid Rock, but with the R and the K backwards. He said, freedom is a childish illusion. Men bicker over dated politics so they could be free to follow the laws written by lawless men who demonstrate they are above the laws they author. I mean, you have a point. I get what you're saying. What's the point of this talk? Well, the first part of the talk was a news report. I'm just trying to educate people on what's going on. The second part of the talk is, I mean, it should be inspiring. If you believe in yourself, it's inspiring. But if you only want to live vicariously through a car salesman, then it's like offensive. So I don't know. You're here. You tell me what the point of the talk is. Why do you listen to me? Why? I watch UFC channels because I like UFC. I watch news analysis and podcasts because it's either funny or interesting. You tell me why you're here. I don't know. I can't tell you what's the point of listening to Joe Rogan for 2 hours? I don't know. Like, you enjoy it. There's info there. There's a message that resonates with you. You feel it's going to make your life better in some way. The D said, because you're cute. Well, I'm glad you're watching just for that reason, but hopefully I have other value. Thank you, John. He said, anomalies of political purists. Political purists lose every time. I'm not a political purist either. I'm not like a libertarian that's like vote for, that's not really true. But I'm not losing. I created my own media company. I set out for what I wanted to do. I'm winning in life. I'm winning with what I do. I've made a huge impact. I've changed a lot of lives. I've changed my life. I'm not losing, okay? I'm not sitting on the sidelines. I'm not a purist. I'm a realist. The truth is, if enough people realized who the Republican Party, including Trump, really was, they're forced to change. If you buy into this false paradigm, it's not going to change. I'm fine. I could sit here and make reaction videos and capitalize all of this and make millions of dollars. I'm fine. I'm not losing, okay? I'm just trying to tell people the truth. I could easily do what other people do and just make reaction videos, say nothing of value, haha, left, right. It doesn't matter. I'm fine. But I'm not a political purist. I'm just not stupid. It's like telling a right-winger they're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just not dumb. I'm not a contrarian. I'm just not, like, if 90% of people are lying, does that make you a conspiracy theorist? If you're the only one who invents something, you discovered DNA, you're Watson and Crick. Are you a conspiracy theorist? Well, the scientific consensus couldn't do it. How come you did it? Are you a bad person? No, you're the realest one. You're the one who did something innovative. If, the whole scientific world's lying about something and you and 5% of scientists are telling the truth, does that make you a conspiracy theorist? So I'm not a purist and I'm not a contrarian. I'm just not dumb or fake enough to do what 80-90% of politics is doing. But if you want to do that, I get it. Like, there's moves to be made. It's like you can take lobbying money and be a politician, and you could run for office, or you could start a media company. This is just what I'm doing. But I'm not one of these people that's so pure that's like, oh, crime's going to disappear. No, I understand that, it's going to take policing or some sort of law enforcement. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not a naive purist at all. It's just like, I would say, like, the right is becoming the left. Donald Trump was further left than Obama socially. He did more prison reform than Democrats, and then he printed more money than any Democrat president ever. Does that make me a purist to realize that socially, fiscally, economically, in every way, besides maybe abortion, the Republican Party is further left than even Karl Marx in some ways? Like, they're doing Karl Marx's agenda. If that's your idea of not being a purist, like, oh, socialism and communism are good when the Republicans do it, then yeah, I guess I'm a purist. But I'm really not that pure. Like, you don't have to be perfect. It's just like, Trump printed more money than Obama. He did universal basic income. He sold vaccines harder than Bill Gates. That's what you want because he put a red hat on and he speaks to you like he's one of you. I mean, this is why they get away with it. This is why I don't care that much anymore, because I understand most people are foolish and they want a fake show. So I understand that, unfortunately, I wouldn't say I'm selfish, but it's like if you run around the world trying to get a horse to drink water, you're going to exhaust yourself. At the end of the day, you have to figure out at a certain point, all right, the Democratic Party wants to keep doing this. Get the hell out of their cities. Get away from the things they control. If the Republican Party wants to play this game, I'm not mad anymore. It's just like, I guess I just need to get away from it. It's not a loop I want to be a part of. But, if that's what you consider purist, then whatever. It's really not that crazy of a concept, but people have been like programmed by the false paradigm. I get it. I totally understand. I'm just over it. It's boring to me. We'll read some comments. Someone said Trump will handle the bankruptcy while you're crying about DeSantis. Not crying. Let's be real. How many people think they actually vote for a president? Well, I think a lot of people, but also I think there's a lot of mental conflict on the right, because on one hand, people are like, elections are fake, it doesn't matter, but then they want to vote for Donald Trump. It's like, if you truly believe that there's no way to win the election, then why even vote? Which is what some people are doing, which is why Republicans are going to lose harder now. It's like, people can't get their narrative straight. It's like, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to go vote. It's like, then you think it matters. It does matter. It does. Your vote does count. It's just, there is going to be some funny business, in my opinion. So, if you're going to leave it to Pennsylvania and 10,000 votes over 5 days, you're in trouble. If you can win by enough where that's not possible, then you're fine. So I do think there's funny business, but I also think your vote matters to some extent. But if the lobbyists control both parties, like, here's a bit of information that I'm going to just repeat because it's probably the most important thing that nobody wants to talk about. After a president wins, there's a second round of donations that come in. It's like they call it the inauguration fundraising. So Obama raised like 50, 60 million. Biden raised like 60, 80 million. Trump raised 100 million. After you win president, all the people that quote unquote hate you come to you and give you money, so you do what they say. Trump took more money than Biden and Obama. But Trump supporters don't want to report on that. So yeah, it doesn't actually really matter that much who you vote for if you're not willing to realize the game. I'm not a purist. That's just how it works. If you want that to stop, if you want to have more influence, the MAGA base didn't get a lot of things that it wanted because it doesn't have the power of those lobbyists. But they don't need to please you because people will still go to the rallies, still go to the events, still clap. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not purism. It's just like, call that out and your influence will increase, or ignore it and clap, and that'll keep going on regardless of who wins. DeSantis, Trump, they're all going to take the Pfizer money. They're all going to take the Bank of America money. They're all going to take the donor money. They're all going to take the Israeli money. That's just the truth. Trump and DeSantis are controlled by the same people. It's just Trump has brainwashed people into thinking it's only DeSantis, and DeSantis just isn't talking because he doesn't want to even address it right now. So it's going to be this whole 2-year loop going nowhere. It's not purism. It's just like reality. It would be like Obama versus Romney. It's like, oh, if you think they're both similar, you're a purist. I'm going to go vote for Mitt Romney. It's going to be so different than Obama. What would have even changed? If Obama or Romney won, like, what would Romney have done? Nothing. Maybe like a conservative judge or 10. It becomes easier to handle when you just don't care that much. I'm not telling people to be apathetic, but it's like, it's nothing new under the sun. It's the same story over and over and over again. There's no reason to be outraged. You're better off not paying attention to politics than to be outraged all the time. Like, I talk to certain people, obviously, all the time, people that say hi to me, my family, like, I hear it all. But sometimes people are so mad, and it's like, I get it. It's frustrating. It's annoying. It's very annoying and frustrating. But at the end of the day, what are you going to be, annoyed and frustrated forever? What's the point? Just let it, like a water on a duck's back, just let it go down. If you can do something about it, make an improvement. If you can't, there's no strategic sense of worrying about it. So I try to tell people to calm down a little bit, because like, just being outraged all the time is not the solution. And then some people throw a fit, and they think that the fit that they just threw is going to somehow like change it. It's not. For example, like, January 6th, I mean, most of it was, I think, somewhat of a setup, or there were feds there, or they opened doors and overcharged people. But also there were a lot of pissed off people there who were pissed off about the election, who were pissed off at the lockdown, who were so angry that they didn't realize that Donald Trump was in on it, that were so angry that they didn't realize that Donald Trump was just reading the same script over and over, selling Moderna vaccines and just, so they got angry. And they're like, I am so my righteous, and then what? You didn't overturn the country, you just got thrown in prison. So it's like they want you to be mad, they want you to be outraged. They can capitalize off your outrage. They could tell you to go to an event and lead you nowhere. They can lie to you and say that they have a secret plan when they don't. It's like there's no strategic advantage to being upset. You're just going to be manipulated and abused by one side or the other. Someone said selling vaccine narrative is debunked. It's not debunked. It's a fact. He signed Operation Warp Speed, a multi-10+ billion dollar vaccine scam that gave a bunch of money to vaccine industries. The NIH owns part of the patent of Moderna. Donald Trump bought hundreds of millions of doses, just like Biden did, of Pfizer and Moderna from the U.S. government. The government owns the patent, and they're buying their own doses with the product that they funded themselves. And then he ran around the country saying it's the greatest human achievement. You're absolutely brainwashed if you don't think Trump sold the vaccine. That's not even debatable. It's like there's hundreds of clips of him selling it, telling people that he's the father of it, that he rushed it, that he brought it here, that he funded it. What are you smoking if you think that Trump never sold the vaccine? Is that how partisan you are? It's like saying Biden never stuttered. Biden never stuttered. He's just speaking in tongue. That's like the blue anon. It's like Biden doesn't stutter. He's speaking in a language that only Democrats can understand because we got our PhD from Yale. You need a Princeton degree to understand the Biden's like, come on, corn pop, corn jack of all trades, jack me nimble, jack me quick, jack jump over the candlestick. I had a candlestick. I used to have a candlestick of butter, and people are like, see? I'm like, dude, I think Joe Biden is demented. I think he's too old. They're like, oh, no. You gotta go to an Ivy League school to understand. He's speaking in Assyrian language that only few understand. You have to really go to a liberal school to understand the nuances of Joe Biden's spirals. You're like, oh, okay. Corn pop is a secret word for Putin. Corn pop is Putin. Trump, I don't want to get into it, but basically there's a war going on, and Biden's got our back. He's gonna get corn pop after all, and the world's gonna be saved, and the World Health Organization is gonna own everything, and BlackRock's gonna get the contract. Trust me, Biden's got it under control. It's like that level of could you imagine you talk to somebody that believed that, and you're like, yeah, is it even worth arguing? Someone said, I thought it was weird his whole speech, he never took a sip of water. I don't know. Who, Biden or Trump? I guess they're not thirsty. I don't know. The children of the corn pop? Dude, corn pop was a bad dude. That fact check true. We all know that. Corn pop absolutely was a bad dude. And, Bill Clinton threw him in jail because corn pop had 3 strikes, okay? Here's the story of corn pop, all right? It started in 1776. Corn pop sailed over on the Mayflower and, actually signed the Declaration of Independence. If you zoom in, you could see corn pop, but he had really small hands, so you could barely see it. So corn pop signed the Declaration of Independence. He lived to be 1,000 years old. He's still alive. And then in the 1800s, I don't want to bore you, but got involved with Abe Lincoln, freed the slaves, etc. Lived through Jim Crow. Was on the steps with MLK, also was in the Nation of Islam with Malcolm X. Fast forward, now things are starting to get legalized, integration, segregation, you get it, corn pop's still here. Then, during the Ferguson riots, corn pop actually was the one who got a lot of the footage, and, he was a bad dude. Oh, I forgot. In the early, 1990s, Corn Pop was thrown in prison by Bill Clinton. He had done 3 bad things in a row, 3 strikes, in jail. Sat in jail for a while, got pardoned with Susan Rosenberg. Trump gets in. People don't know this, but Trump also liked Corn Pop because him and Corn Pop used to have days at Mar-a-Lago. I don't want to get into it, but then Trump did the First Step Act, some say, to get Corn Pop out of jail. So Trump does the First Step Act. People don't know this. Corn Pop, who went back to jail because he just can't stay out of trouble. And now, with the Ukraine Russian war, you know, I don't want to get into Corn Pop's involvement, but let's just say he's a central figure in that. So, you know, that's the United States history of Corn Pop. He is truly a non-fictional character. He's been alive a long time, and if anybody realizes how old he is, they'll realize that the government has a cure for everything, and anyone could live that long if they just get the elixir that he has. So, you know, these are things that they definitely don't want to say on television, because then people will kind of wake up to the illusion. Brian said Trump didn't push the vax, and he said, bro, if you're brainwashed, you got to talk to somebody about it, okay? This isn't going to be a therapy session. If you don't think Trump pushed the vaccine at all, you're delusional, okay? I don't even want to. It would be like you telling me C-3PO is a real person and he's your neighbor. Like, if you want to believe that, I'm sure there's places you can tell that to. It's just not going to be here. Like, I'm sorry. Someone said Joe's Corvette comes with classified documents. Dude, the whole thing is built out of classified documents. People don't know that about Joe's Corvette, too. It's just all documents. They're just painted, steel, embedded. It's crazy. Thoughts on the Scott Adams situation? Well, I would like to defend Scott Adams, but he blocked me on Twitter, so, you know, not much to really say there. He shouldn't have blocked me. But, you know, I think the one mistake that Scott made, maybe not the one, but he's made a lot. So, you know, everybody makes mistakes. But I think that Scott Adams, like, he said that over a Rasmussen poll of like 1,000 people. So to me, that was like a little sus. He's like, well, this poll says this, and then now I say that. It's like all of that over a poll. Like, you know, Scott's like a fake science guy. He believes all the polls. He believes all the data. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that was the mistake. Like, the first mistake is like believing a poll and then making your whole decision off of one Rasmussen poll. But, you know, it's okay to be white is like what he was going off of. That's a real test, because it's like BLM, okay, this, okay, black activism, okay, this. But the real test is if you just say it's okay to be white. And you see how many people disagree with it. They literally don't think it's even okay for you to exist. And there's a point to be said there. And honestly, it's like, you know, what he's saying, I understand what he's saying. I don't think he maybe said it in a way that is going to get public support, but who cares? You know, why would you want to live around people that don't even think it's okay for you to exist? I think that's the point he was trying to make. So, you know, as far as I'm not going to base my analysis over a Rasmussen poll and say that's why I think it, but you know, in general, I think there's a lot of racial games going on. A lot of people have hate, and it needs to be addressed and combated in some sort of way, you know, so people could live in peace and harmony. But I live where I want to live, and I base it on a bunch of things like livability, quality. You know, I don't want a trash place. I don't want a lot of crime. You know, these are things most people like. And if you start reading statistics and how things go, you know, you'll come to certain conclusions on your own. So, you know, Scott doesn't like me, and he blocked me a while ago, so he can handle this one on his own. You know, I'll say what I think, but I'm not gonna quote a shitty poll. Let me see. Why would I cry? I don't want you to cry, Virginia. Do not cry. Let's read a few more, and then I'm gonna roll out. Thanks for being here. Sorry to Facebook. I mean, I think the SNL video had some sort of copyright restriction on it or something, and they took the whole stream down. So this is only on YouTube. It'll be on Rumble, and it's just what it is. I almost was gonna take it down and cry and redo it, but I was like, I'll just keep going. Whatever. One Facebook won't hurt me. Let me see. Someone said him saying, well, I think he worded it very bluntly, like the Scott thing. But here's what I will say. Like, if you really look at the history of how America works, they're not telling the full truth about like anything. So ever since integration, you know, which was in the 60s and stuff, they took away a lot of black businesses. They, you know, took away a lot of, I'm not saying they took it away, but through policy and brainwashing on the media, families, religion, things that really hold people together. Like a family, I come from a broken family in the sense of like a divorce. I came out great, I think, in my opinion. I'm biased, but you know, not everyone does. It doesn't mean if you're from a good family, you're going to be good. And if you're from a divorce, it doesn't mean you're going to be bad. That's not what I'm saying. But statistically, it's like if 99% of the population has a father and mother policing the kid, and 80% of this population has no father and nobody can police their kids, it does make a difference. So it's like, once integration happened and all the MLK stuff, the family was absolutely obliterated. I'm not saying it's all MLK's fault, but as far as like the policy that went in after, a lot of it incentivized the separation of families. So, and then you have the media pushing in like the crime, and then you have Democrats, like the whole country. We need to have a conversation. I'll just say that. We need to have a real conversation about race. We need to have a real conversation about gender. We need to have a real conversation about sexuality. We need to have a real conversation about religion and Christ. And we need to have a real conversation about how to function as a society. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of conversations no one wants to talk about, so things aren't necessarily getting better. Racial relations are not getting better in many areas. Some are, some aren't. Crime is not getting better. And if you look at the crime statistics, it's astronomical what, is going on. And it's like nobody wants to talk about it. So there does need to be some sort of conversation about it. And then you got to figure out where you want to live. Here's my thing. I'm not for like forced segregation or anything. I think people should be able to do what they want. But if you have a group of 1 million black people, for example, I'm not saying, and they say, we don't like these people, we want to live here. That's fine, but then why would you want to live around? You get what I'm saying? It's like you want to live around people, whether your neighbor's black or Asian. You want your neighbor to like you or to have a good relationship with them. And if there's large groups of people that don't even think you should exist or don't like you, then it's worth at least communicating about and be like, do we want this? Same with politically. If Democrats want to live in a shithole city, you have the right, but I don't want to live there, and I don't have to live there, and I don't have to pretend like I want to live there. So I think people need to be more honest and be like, is that really what you want? Then I don't want to live there, right? I don't care what your politics are, but if you want to live in a shithole like San Francisco, I don't. So I don't care what your politics are, but I'm not going to pretend that I agree with that because I don't, and I don't want it near me. With that being said, with race, it's like, I don't care what race somebody is, but if you see a neighborhood where murder is normal and that group of people is justifying the murder instead of like policing their own and saying that's terrible and saying we got to get rid of it, they're actually incentivizing it and justifying it, whether it be a group that's racial, political, religious. I don't have to pretend like I want to live there. That's just the truth. If I see a community that has low crime, whether it's Asian, white, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like, that might be appealing to me, or that might be not appealing to you. Maybe you want more action and you want to live in a rough area. It is what it is, but I think everybody should be allowed to express their opinion, and say, listen, politically, I don't agree with that. And the problem is, in my opinion, in a lot of cities, is when you look at the demographics, my problem is not the race of people, obviously, but my problem is the fact that a majority of people there are voting the wrong way, in my view, and they're also incentivizing the murder. That I just can't get with, and I think it would be very beneficial to these groups to reject that culture. Most people's culture is not that. If that starts happening in their community, they police their own community. If you're not willing to police that behavior and you make excuses for it, I don't want to live there. That's just a fact. So, these are conversations that are tough to have and tough to word properly without sounding bad, but it's just the truth. If there's a community and the race is 98% a different ethnicity than mine, but it's clean, nice, and safe, I would want to live there. If it's not, I don't want to live there. I don't care if they're white and I don't care if they're black. But you notice in a lot of high crime areas, you have certain demographics and they basically gatekeep their own demise. They say, it's your fault, it's this fault, it's that fault. And you don't see that in certain communities. They say, no, that's not normal. You got to stop it. And the reason it keeps continuing is because there's no self-policing. That's why Republicans talk about the breakdown of the family and the breakdown of religion. I'm sorry, I'm not saying every Christian's good. It's not true. But a lot of times when people start going to church and start getting jobs, etc., it's like they leave that lifestyle behind. Because no matter what you are, if you have a family or you need to make income, who has the time for this crap? Even when I see people beefing on Twitter, I'm thinking to myself, how do people with families have the time to fight like this? You know what I'm saying? You got to feed your kids. You got to, like, how do you even have the time to entertain all of this other nonsense? So, I think the family is a massive one. The lack of religion is a massive one. And the racial manipulation of, politics and fake activism has brainwashed certain communities into gatekeeping their own demise. And, I don't know exactly how to word that to not seem this or that, but that's basically my message is if there's a high crime area, I don't want to live there. And if you're willing to address the problem like El Salvador and say, hey, this is a high crime area and it's not okay, I respect that. But most high crime areas in America, they take no accountability. The libertarians and the liberals, they blame the police. Yet they don't even talk about what else is going on here. It cracks me up when I see libertarian Twitter because they're always talking about police situations in bad neighborhoods, okay? Talk about it. But why don't you take a camera and get the Libertarian Party to pay you 10,000 whatever and go start a bodega, go to one of the worst neighborhoods, top 20 worst neighborhoods in America, and start a bodega and start a store and be a libertarian. And you tell me after a month, I'll ask you, who's the biggest problem and the biggest threat to your life in this community? Is it the people there? Is it the police? Is it the government? You get what I'm saying? And you'll come to the conclusion that the biggest threat to your life is the people there because it's like a war zone. I've been to the hood. I've been to bad areas. It's not the police that are bothering me, okay? And I'm not going to pretend like it is. I'm not saying the police are perfect. I'm not saying the police shouldn't be held accountable, but you got everybody. It's like, it's so easy to be like, oh, and look at this in this area. And it's like, bro, there's other issues in these areas too. It's not just the police or the prison system. There's some people that are acting like psychopaths all the time. So, if people in those neighborhoods are not willing to fix it, whether it be racially, politically, whatever, they're gatekeeping their own demise and saying, oh, this is the Democrat way, we don't see the crime, or they're saying, oh, it's everyone else's fault, it's not our race. I mean, smart people are going to be like, yeah, that's not a place that's going to build. It's going to just keep being like, dangerous. At the end of the day, it's like, that's just what it is. So, I guess certain people say it in ways that are not right, or they say it in dumb ways, but that's what I think. I think it's easy, in my opinion, to fix a lot of the problems in America. It's just, nobody wants to do it. The Democrats gatekeep their own stuff. All activism in America that's mainstream, NFL and stuff. My problem is not the race behind it. It's using the race to basically do the wrong thing. It's like, here's what it means to be black activism. Like, black activism could be 1,000 things. You chose that, and that's a political thing, and that's a political thing that's actually not even good for anybody. But then if I disagree with it, I'm the bad person? No, I see right through that stuff, and I'm like, that's going to basically gatekeep. I'm all for calling out the prison system, but here's what you'll never hear from a Democrat, ever. There's actual really messed up people in this country that are doing really messed up things, and it needs to stop. Why they're doing that, I have no idea. How they were raised, etc. I understand family, but the truth is, when you got thousands of people that will literally kill their neighbor or commit crime against a little girl or blow the face off of an immigrant who owns a store and then eat food. I watched a video recently where this guy blows the freaking head off of a bodega owner, and then after he just murdered some guy in front of his child, he sits there and like eats chips or something. Like, this dude is evil as hell. That type of crap happens all the time in this country. And if you're not willing to say that exists, I don't care if you call yourself a liberal or a libertarian or a racial activist, you're insane. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, who could we blame? Doesn't matter who's in charge of the police or the government. If people like that exist, yes, we could do better to build for the future, but right now that does exist. And if nobody gets tough on it, and this is why I don't even like the Republican Party. Bill Clinton was tougher on crime than Trump. I'm not saying he did a perfect job or anything, but it's like, you have Republicans now that are like doing prison reform and, crying about racism of what he did 20 years ago. I'd have to really study the 3-step bill, as far as to what it did. But it's like, people are always like, Democrats used to be better on crime. But then when they were tough on crime, people called them racist. It's like, do you really want Democrats to be tougher on crime? Because when they were, now you cry about racism because it's a cheap way to score a political point. That's everything everybody's doing. Cheap political points. Oh, you're racist if you don't like Tim Scott. You're racist if you don't like Trump's Surgeon General. No, you're racist if you don't like Kamala Harris. No, you're sexist if you don't like Carrie. It's like, it's all fake. It's like, what do we really want as a nation? What do we really want as a city? How are we going to get to that point? Not by crying over everything, not by saying, oh, this and that. Yeah, prison reform is good if it's for people that smoked weed on a corner, but there are actually also bad people that need to be held accountable. And How many people that murder people were in jail for murder? They got out early. They did it again. Like, that happens very often, you know? Like, we need a real system in place. Let me see. Someone said 10 years mandatory taking down a statue. Clinton didn't do that. What are you saying? Trump gave someone 10 years for taking down a statue? I mean, I don't, has that worked? I don't know. Like, I don't even get what you're saying. Like, Trump did it because he gave people 10 years for taking down a statue. He really solved crime. Okay. Let me read a few comments. I think I'm going to leave in a second, but when someone does something crazy, like shoots a bodega owner in the face in front of his kid for no reason, and then eats something like in front of the dead body as the kid's crying, when you do something like that, I'm fine with like public executions or something like that. To me, that would send a message. We're not going to do that to somebody. Like, the death penalty is bad if you're not really sure who it was, but if you have 100% proof, I'm talking not 99, 100%, you're 100% sure that that guy just shot somebody in the face in front of his kid, I think there should be a message sent. I would be fine with public executions of, like, you know, showing the world, this is what happens when you do that. If you do that, we will find you, and we will, like, versus like this, like, it's disgusting. It's crazy. If El Salvador can do it, Los Angeles can do it. You know, there's people that'll just do crazy evil stuff every day and get 5 years, 3 years. Like, I'm all for second chances, but at the end of the day, like, there needs to be a leader that tells people we have a zero tolerance policy for crime. Zero. We don't care what you look like. We don't care what gender you are. We want to live in a nice world. Okay? So if you're terrorizing your community, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Christian, whether you're atheist, you will be held accountable. Okay? This is going to be good for everybody, right? We all want this. This is good for everybody. Everybody has kids. Everybody has friends or siblings or parents, whatever you are, whoever you are. But this is the new America, or a classic America. It's like, no more of this stuff. I don't really see that message from anybody. Maybe in Florida, certain counties, they go pretty hard. But, you know, like, political correctness makes it impossible to self-police. It's like, oh, if you solve crime in El Salvador, it's bad because people are in prison. Like, they're showing, like, gang members, like, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, they went from the murder capital of the world to 300 days with no murders. That's the most incredible thing I've probably heard all year. That's the most inspiring thing I've heard. I'm serious. A lot of news is just like, oh, who cares? Like, this happened and this. Who cares? From murder capital of the world to no murders in the entire country? How is that even possible? To me, that's the best story of the year. That's the greatest story of the year. And barely anyone's talking about it. Everybody should be calling that guy and paying him in Bitcoin to consult. How the hell did you do that? If you could stop crime in El Salvador, we could do it in Los Angeles, or we could do it in New Orleans. Or, you know, like, it's amazing. That's the best story of the year, or at least like the most impressive thing I've ever heard. It's not even comparable. From the worst to basically the best in no time, less than a year. Everybody should be paying him for consulting. It's not that hard to fix stuff, but I don't know. It's definitely not going to be popular. All right. Appreciate. Someone said this issue is El Salvadorian president. He doesn't care about anybody. Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes. And that's what I hope for, like, a Republican president to some extent, where it's like, this is my issue with Trump. It's like, he acted like he was going to be that guy, but he wasn't that guy. And I'm going to say this in El Salvador. And I'm not saying it's the same constitution, but in general, in America, you know, rather in El Salvador, nobody's making excuses for the El Salvadoran president. Oh, he couldn't solve crime because they stopped him. He did it. You get what I'm saying? There is no fake sob story because the El Salvador president had success. The reason everybody makes excuses for Trump is because he didn't have success. The country's not really safer. You know, the pandemic destroyed the country more than anything Obama did, and Trump was at front and center for it. Like, he didn't do what he set out to do. That's just the truth, even if it's not his fault. But it's like, people in this country are so used to losing and becoming like crappy versions of the left. All we have are fake stories of what could have been or what he didn't do. You know, there's people in the world that actually win. The El Salvador president, there's no story of like, oh, he couldn't fix crime. He actually fixed crime. He just did it. And guess what? The media hated on him. They said he took too much power. They said he shouldn't have done it, but he did it. And the media is going to hate anyway. So what's the point of coming up short and crying victim? They're going to hate anyway. But that's how pathetic, I'm not trying to be rude, but that's how pathetic Republicans are. They're so used to just becoming watered down versions of the left, doing nothing, printing money like Karl Marx, selling vaccines, that instead of even having a story of how they had success, all they have is excuses. We're the excuse party now. We're the party that tells Black America not to be victims, but we play the victim. We're hypocrites, you know? If you're going to tell these people, oh, don't play the victim, you also can't play the victim. How are you going to tell an entire race to not play the victim, and your entire political movement is pretending that Donald Trump is a massive victim of his own administration that he hired? You know, it's so corny to me. And there's going to be people here that don't agree. I don't care. I really don't. And I'm not upset if people don't want to watch or follow. I'm not chasing people away if you want to, but it's like, if you don't, you're not, my feelings are not going to be hurt if there's other shows you like better that tell you what you want to hear. This is just not the one, and I don't care. There's thousands of shows that I don't watch and I never will watch, and I'm not hassling them and I'm not messaging them. I just don't care. So that's why I seem so contrarian, because in this country, we've been brainwashed with the false paradigm. Here's the left, here's the right. We fall short, we print the money, we lock down, we become communists. And now all we have is this fake paradigm between two people and this story of why we couldn't do it. Meanwhile, all over the world, people are getting stuff done. El Salvador solved crime. They didn't cry about how they couldn't. In the Muslim world, they're building infrastructure. They're taking over entertainment instead of excuses of why we can't build infrastructure because you fell for the left-right paradigm. America used to be great, and we didn't need to make excuses. We didn't make excuses for our military. It was the best. It might still be. We didn't make excuses for entertainment. We had the best. We didn't make excuses for president. We had the best. Now all we do is make excuses, even on the right. It's like, well, it's because he couldn't get past the deep state. Well, then find someone who can get past the deep state, and if they can't, what's the point of acting like they're going to? It's like we're so used to failing and coming up short that people think it's not even possible to succeed. Like, we're so used to getting betrayed and sold out that people think it's not even possible to not do that. And all over the world, there's people who are actually doing stuff to like a stronger. It's of course on purpose, because if you have, and this is what I talk about all the time, if you have this game where the two sides are fighting but the same outcome comes, it's absolutely planned. It's absolutely controlled. They can control your party for 3 years off a Russia collusion narrative, and you won't actually accomplish anything. Meanwhile, you'll hire the people that they wanted anyway, and everybody will just say that's all it could be. It's not all it could be. If Rand Paul won the election, he's not hiring who Donald Trump hired. I don't care if he takes lobbying money. Rand Paul is 10 times the I would say the political integrity of Donald Trump. So if Rand Paul somehow won the election, you'd see really fast, it actually, like, Trump is such a, he hires so bad that he actually brainwashed the supporters into thinking it's not possible. That's why, like, DeSantis hired Joseph Ladapo. Trump could have done that. He just didn't do it. He could have hired somebody good. He just didn't. It's not possible just because Trump didn't do it. Like, that's how brainwashed everybody is. Oh, it's not even possible to do it because Trump didn't do it. Maybe Trump's just a phony. Maybe if Rand Paul got in, he'd hire a real Secretary of State. He'd hire a real Secretary of Transportation and not Mitch McConnell's wife. He'd hire a real FDA head, or he'd hire a real CDC person or an HHS person, not a big pharma lobbyist. Like, people have been demoralized by Trump and they don't even realize it. Like, oh, it's not even possible. It's like, then it is. It absolutely is. It's just when you have someone that's not trying to do it, then it doesn't happen. But you got to have somebody in office that actually wants to hire people from the outside. Trump talks the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk. He told you he wouldn't take people's money, but he took people's money. He told you he wouldn't get Sheldon Adelson's money, but he took Sheldon Adelson's money. He told you that he'd hire outsiders and drain the swamp, but he filled up the swamp so hard that even I didn't know for 2 years. And once I looked into it, I'm like, holy crap, Trump really did hire everybody terrible. There's really like no one bad that he didn't hire. It's like 3 people in his whole administration that aren't total like Obama/Biden type people. So it is possible to win. It is possible to fix crime. It is possible to clean America up. It is possible to stop a riot. It's just Trump didn't do any of those things. So it's like, that's our movement now, a movement that believes it's not possible to do any of those things, but wants to hire the person who can't do it. Meanwhile, El Salvador goes from the most dangerous to the cleanest. Do you think he has executive power over the whole country? Probably not. Do you think he has, he has Democrat equivalents in big cities trying to fight him? I'm sure he did. I'm sure it's even harder to do in some cases in El Salvador because it's a corrupt country to some extent. But it's like, the guy just did it, and then you don't have a story of like, here's why I fell short. It's like, I didn't fall short. I actually did it. And they could get mad and they could call me names, but 300 days with no crime, last year it wasn't. You get what I'm saying? So that's a few of my concerns with the new administration. It's like, is this our movement now? If we fall short, that's just what it is. Like, can we rewire our brains to actually win, and be like, hey, if we win this time, let's actually do something and not just make it, it's not hating and it's not purism. It's just like, it's like, oh, let's just hire Mitt Romney, I guess, and do nothing and pretend like we're doing something. I don't know. How's that fun? Someone said, keep motivating us, Anomaly. We can do better. Absolutely. And some of these things are going to be so clear eventually that there's no like running away from reality. For example, when the money and this is going to bother people too because nobody wants to tell the truth about it. When all the money was printed in 2020, it was bipartisan. It was Trump, it was Pelosi, it was McConnell. I would go on record and say it was almost everybody except for Thomas Massie. He's the only one that can even remotely say he was against it, okay? The entire political atmosphere, including Trump, was in on the money printing. And when I talked about this in April and May and June, I had people do the same thing. Oh, you're a purist, Anomaly. You're a hater, Anomaly. He had to do it, Anomaly. It's for COVID, Anomaly. He's saving businesses, Anomaly. Here's the point I was trying to make in May and June. It doesn't matter why 6 million or 4 million or 10 million or however many trillion were printed. It doesn't matter how much money is printed. It's just basic economics. If you print the money, inflation is going to come. And then the Democrats got in and the Republicans brainwashed their base into thinking it was just Joe Biden. And Joe Biden brainwashed his base into thinking it was Putin. But the truth is, it's all of them, including Trump and Biden. It's not just Biden. Trump printed more money than any president ever, and then Biden got in and printed more money. It doesn't matter if you don't want to hear what I'm saying in 2020 because your guy's in office. It's basic economics. Eggs are going to go to $9. Even if the war didn't start with Russia, even if Biden didn't print as much money, inflation was still coming. Maybe not as much, but it was coming because they printed more money than they've ever printed. And if you don't believe that, then how could you even call yourself a capitalist? It's like, if your guy prints the money, then it doesn't bother the system, then why not just print the money? If Donald Trump can put on a red hat and print money, but if Joe Biden puts on a blue hat and prints money, only then why doesn't Trump print more money? The reason Republicans and conservatives don't print money is because you can't just print money. When you print money, it leads to inflation. Republicans printed all the money in 2020 and then brainwashed their base into thinking they didn't do it. And now it's 2023 and everybody's complaining about the prices. Well, nobody wanted to talk about it when it happened. So the point that I'm getting is this: I don't care what people want to hear, because if these issues don't get addressed, it's not the end of the world, but life's going to get shittier. Crime is going to rise a little bit, and eventually you're going to see it. So it's like, you might not want to hear what I'm saying because it's a purist take, but it's like, it's not just Democrats why all the prices are high. The prices are high everywhere in the world, every country. Yes, Biden made it worse, but every country had inflation. Why? Because every country printed money in 2020. Everybody had a different solution of how to handle it in 2021 and 2022, but inflation went off everywhere in the world because they all printed the money. But Republicans think it's just Democrats. Like, this is how dumb people are, and then they get mad at me. It's like, whatever. If you want to like read some sort of like hyped up blog about that says what you want to hear, then go do it. I don't care. I don't know the exact thing. I screenshotted it, but like Dinesh D'Souza, he's always posting like very like hyped up headlines and stuff. And I don't dislike Dinesh D'Souza. He has a nice family, etc. Nice guy. it's like, oh, Adam Schiff is really in trouble. And it's like, how many clicks is that going to get from conservatives? Like, oh, Adam Schiff's really close to getting in trouble. No, he's not. You know, I understand if you're a Republican, you want Adam Schiff to be held accountable for his corruption, but it's like, that's who the Republicans are. Ooh, any day now, Adam Schiff's going to jail. It's like, it's the same as the left saying any day now, Trump's going to prison. No, he's not. You know, I mean, you know, it is what it is, but it's like, this is like most Republican reporting, because they're just trying to get clicks and like hype everybody up. They're like, oh, Pelosi, any day now, we got her. Like, oh, click on my link and she'll go to jail. Like, no, she won't. You know, like she's not. But it's not pessimistic. It's just like reality. It's like that's not happening right now. Maybe later in life that'll happen, but right now it's not. And how could it ever happen if you constantly always just think it's gonna happen? Like it's like this self-repeating like loop that everyone's caught in. But it's interesting, you know, at the least. I just like, once I log into Twitter now, because I'm trying to stay off it mostly, it's like, except for to do work and stuff, it's like, I just see like the game that's going on, you know, just like a big game. Everybody's playing this like little game. And, you know, I'm trying to go through it and be like, okay, how do we actually win? In my opinion, we need to actually want to win and not just make excuses for failure. That's a good start. I believe, maybe I'm naive, but I believe that if you put your mind to something, you could do it. I don't think that I'm powerless, and I don't think that you're powerless. So I think if enough of us collectively feel a certain way and say it, things will change. Maybe that's naive, but I truly believe if 50 million Trump supporters stood up to Trump and DeSantis and the lobbyist class, things would change. But if 50 million Trump supporters just act like it's not happening, and then they just fight with the 50 million DeSantis supporters, nothing's going to change. That's why I say what I say. It's solution-based. It's like they got you right where the same people are controlling Trump and DeSantis. The same exact people that control DeSantis are also controlling Trump. So if you fight between the two people, that it doesn't matter. It's a fake show. Thank you, Gina, and thank you to everyone for the super chats. It's like, that's the point that I'm trying to get. It's not pessimistic. It's not purist. That's just the reality. It's like telling me I'm pessimistic when we print $10 trillion. Oh, you're just pessimistic. Oh, you can't just print money. If you think you could print that much money as much as Trump printed in 2020, if you think you can just print that much money and give everyone a universal basic income check, you're not a conservative. You're a communist. You know what I'm saying? Socialists think you could print money, not conservatives. But that just shows how fake people are. If you put a red MAGA hat on and you print a bunch of money, people with red MAGA hats will think you never did it, or they'll make excuses for it. You had people making excuses for Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto because Donald Trump implemented it. Like, oh, it's okay that he prints $10 trillion because he's fighting Fauci. It's like, what? It's not. It's not my opinion. It's basic economics. You can't just print that much money. If you can, then just print that much money. Give everyone $1 trillion. Everybody deserves $1 trillion, right? Why don't they just if you could just print money, why don't you just give everyone $1 trillion? Because it doesn't work that way. And when you print money and give everyone $1,600, it's not the money that you're getting, it's the money that you're not getting that's going to lead to inflation and the money you're getting. But you get what I'm saying? It's not like everyone in the world, oh, everybody just gets $1,600. It's the cheese in the trap. It's classic socialism, thanks to the Trump administration and Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. It's like, here's $1,600 for you. Here's $1,600 for you. Here's $20 million for this corporation. Here's $50 million for this. Here's $16 billion to Big Pharma. How come everybody at Big Pharma didn't get $1,600? Well, there's where the inflation's coming from, besides just the other stuff. It's like everyone didn't get $1,600. Low-level people like myself got $1,600. You maybe got $1,600 unless you make too much. I got the money, but now, you know, it wasn't free. It was the cheese in the trap. And it didn't come from Democrats. It's just, but you won't hear what I just said anywhere on Fox News or Newsmax. They won't talk about it. They're complicit in the brainwashing of Republicans. Republicans don't even know that this happened because, well, it's their own fault, in my opinion, but nobody else will say this stuff. I'll just read in the comments what I just said. yes, Biden's partly responsible for inflation, but the Trump administration is absolutely, with all the money they printed, that was going to lead to, this was my whole debate with Styx Hexenhammer, who lied about this and brainwashed people into believing him. But it's like, this led to inflation, what Republicans did in 2020. Biden didn't help it, but it was coming anyway. Who else says that to their audience? Name someone in the comment section. Who besides myself, because I don't know, maybe David Knight, who got kicked off InfoWars, I don't know. Name other influencers that admit that Republicans printing $6 to $10 trillion in 2020 led to inflation. Name, I just want to see. Someone on Newsmax, Fox News, Independent, anyone. Who has said that in their streams? I've seen nobody. I haven't seen a single person. Anybody I like, I don't see them touch the subject. When I go on other podcasts or other things and I say this, I'm like scaring their audience. It's like this crazy thing that like, oh, people got to, even when they bring me on, I'm chill. They almost got to make excuses for me. Like, oh, this is anomaly. He's like, yeah, like what I'm saying so nuts. I'm basically saying basic free market capitalism. Like I'm like communism's bad, socialism's bad, money printing is bad, and like Republicans are like, oh, I'm sorry, like this, my audience can't handle it. It's like, who else? Eric July said it. That's good. I know he's a libertarian. Has Crowder said that? You said Crowder's honest. Has he said what I just said, though, that Republicans printed too much money in 2020 and it led to a lot of the inflation? Has Candace talked about it? I don't watch her show, so I can't say. Probably not, but I don't know if she's addressed that issue. Oh, Peter Schiff. Yeah, Peter Schiff has talked about it for sure. That's Ron Paul's finance guy. That guy hates Bitcoin, but he's totally right about that. Let me see. Is Peter Schiff really the grandson of the financier of the Bolshevik Revolution? Is that true? That would be crazy. But I like Peter Schiff. Let's see. Peter Schiff, myself, Eric July. Someone said, no, Crowder didn't say that, but he wouldn't deny it. Yeah, I mean, nobody really, Styx denied it, but most people don't deny it. But the question is, it's so important. It's like if every Republican like Crowder and TPUSA and, like Daily Wire, they're all against socialism. It's like their main thing. We hate socialism. Republicans did more socialism than any Democrat. That's insane. Printing money. You can't just print trillions of dollars. But nobody wants to talk about it. Why do they have to wait until I'm on the show to admit it happened? That should be like, if their whole thing is like, I'm against socialism, socialism sucks, how have they not reported on this? It just shows you. It's like it's a team game. It's like, if we do socialism, we don't see it because the donors might get mad or something. Like, they don't know this stuff. These people, nobody knows anything. I have to tell everybody, like I'm some sort of like math wizard in the corner. Guys, I'm not, I think I'm smart. I'm obviously not stupid, but like the only way Crowder's going to know is if I do it. He's got a team. The only way Daily Wire or TPUSA is going to know that Republicans did socialism is if Anomaly comes on a show and tells them, am I that like mad genius or something? Guys, honestly, this is like the easiest thing. It's not even a top 100 like genius things I've come up with in my life. I could boost my own ego and be like, oh, I'm so great. I'm really not. When it comes to this topic, this is not hard. This is like basic economics that a third grader could figure out. Timmy, you can't just print trillions of dollars. Okay, Daddy. Timmy, the Republicans just printed trillions of dollars. That's socialism, Dad. Like, it's that simple. It's not hard. So I just think it's funny that people are like, oh, if you were on a show, he'd say it. Why do I have to be there for someone to report this? I don't understand. It's not like they don't talk about socialism. How many times have they mentioned the word socialism in the last year? 10,000? How many times have they said Republicans or admitted that Republicans did it? Like 0? Unless they're talking about like Lindsey Graham or something. It's insane. Redacted news guy said it. I'm sure. There's people out there. It's just there's not many, great grandson. That's interesting. But someone said Crowder knows, but Republicans are his money. Yeah, I just think people like to not say certain things. I don't know. Like it's easy to say Mitch McConnell sucks. Mitch McConnell sucks and he takes donor money. Lindsey Graham sucks and he takes donor money. Trump took donor money. Boo. You know, it's like, it's better to just not say it, even though it's also true. It's like, just don't go there. You know, it's like, stay in your lane. Your lane is to like, but then if your lane is to create this false illusion, what is your lane? How are you really even better than CNN? You become like the Republican version of CNN. And I'm not knocking Crowder right now, but you know, from what I've heard, and I don't watch his show, so I don't know, he interviews rhinos all the time, and he interviews Republicans all the time, like Ted Cruz, and he doesn't ask them journalistic questions. If I ever get a Ted Cruz interview, there's a lot of great questions to ask him. Is Crowder asking Ted Cruz the tough questions, or is Crowder just promoting Ted Cruz? You know what I'm saying? Making him look like your buddy. So you vote like, you know, I don't want to speak too much because I haven't seen the full interview, but it's like, you know, the Republican world is like a little fake world where they all just like, you know, let's just hate the left. Oh, the left side. Like I watched Ted Cruz speak at TPUSA. It's like, oh, the left, socialism sucks. And like, ha 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 ha. It had to, like, but you know, it's like, yeah, like you watch 20 speakers, they all sound the same. They're all yelling. They're like, the future sucks. Like the kids are like, what the hell? I got to donate to, it's like, it's just a joke, man, but whatever. Let's see. Someone said you can't print money when you have to pay the central bank to print it. It's an odd scheme for sure. All the like the rates rising now. It's like they have to rise the rates. Like something's gonna collapse. They printed too much money in 2020. They printed too much money in 2021. They've always printed too much money, but they went like if it were going off a hill, it's like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And then Biden gets in, it's like 2021. And then both parties are like, it's Putin, it's Democrats, it's, you know, and then it's like the Federal Reserve's like, we got to raise the interest rates. And everyone's like, oh my God. It's like, obviously the Federal Reserve, I'm not co-signing the Federal Reserve because they're part of the problem. They are the problem. But in general, it's like, what did you think was going to happen? You know, like everyone's acting so shocked. Like they raise the interest rates, stocks fall. Like, yeah, after 2020, you think the stocks aren't going to fall? Like, of course they immediately fell. They came back and then they fell again because it was all fake. Like I was hoping they didn't fall again, but it's like, yeah, that's to be expected based on what they did. You know, they're going to have to raise interest rates probably again because it's a finesse that they have to get back to normal. They like went off a cliff and now it's like someone's going to have to take the hit. Either eggs are going to go up, inflation's going to go up, stocks are going to crash, interest rates, like, you know, it's going to be hard to buy a house. Something's going to happen. Like it's not just Biden. Biden is not the problem. Like he is a problem, but he's not the problem. The Federal Reserve was there during Trump and Biden. They helped print the money, or they did print the money on behalf of whoever. And, you know, now they're balancing the books that they helped burn. It's, you know, it's a wild situation, but someone said it's all by design too. The central banks bankrolled the BlackRock takeover of real estate. I would have to look into that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, you know, I would not be shocked. As far as how BlackRock got all their money, I'm not sure. But I believe there's a Jay-Z lyric about it that everyone freaked out about. Not BlackRock, but he talked about like credit and, you know, how people, you know, take out loans and use credit to do things. I mean, you know, it's like high level financial stuff in order to like really make a lot of money. A lot of even rich people, they don't even use their own money. It's like they know how to take out loans and it's like all fake. But it is what it is. I'm not someone who's like a power hungry person. Like I want to do all that. I want to own the world. It's like, I'm good. I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate. My life is good. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to live in like a hellhole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to live in like El Salvador before they fixed it. Like I'm not a hateful person because I don't want their power. I don't want their money. I don't need a palace. I literally just need them to not lock the country down again and destroy our economy. If they have even a somewhat not even playing field, I'll be okay. But if they tank our entire financial supply and screw everyone over and everybody's in the streets like robbing each other, like that's not cool. That's like the level I want it to get to. I don't need, I want to be the Federal Reserve. I would not want to be that person. I don't need anything. Life's not fair. I understand that. Some people are going to be more scammy and better at finessing the system. It's fine. I don't want that. I don't seek that. But, you know, if they make life so bad that nobody could live like happily, that's a problem. And I'm not saying it's there yet, because it's not, but, you know, we're getting too close for comfort. Let's put it that way. Someone said, don't worry, they will destroy Europe first. Well, they already almost have. It's not completely destroyed, but you look at too, like, I'll say this and then I'm really going to go. You look at the Muslim world, it's really growing, right? Muslim people are growing. Muslims are, I'm not going to say taking over Europe, but they're having more babies, and you get what I'm saying. But if you look at the Muslim world in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, they're really getting a lot of power, but they're not giving up their religion. I have respect for Muslims. I'm not Islamic, but I have respect for the fact that they're not budging with their religion. A little bit, yes, but not. The slippery slope is way less slippery in Islam. They actually believe in what they say, and they're building a coalition of people who will hold the line. The Muslim world is not collapsing, it's growing. The Christian world is collapsing. It absolutely is. You look at Europe, it used to be super Christian. You look at America, it used to be super Christian. The way that they won't let people stay in hotels if you're not married in Islamic countries, that's how Christians used to be. It used to actually mean something. Now, one of the only like Christian countries that is big and not being destroyed is Russia. And all of a sudden, the, you know, whatever you want to call it, is waging war on Russia, or Russia waged war on Ukraine, however you really see it. If you think that they started it, or you think America and NATO started it, however you want to see it, whatever. It's like, I can't notice the pattern of like the Islamic world is building and they're not giving up the line. And America is basically like a proxy warrior of a regime that hates Christians. You know, all over the world, you find a Christian place, it's at war. Where are all the Christians in the Middle East? Oh, in Syria. What do you know? You know, they're at war with Syria. Now we're killing Syrians or something, or we're fighting it's like, oh, we're fighting ISIS. And all of a sudden, millions of Christians are like killed and displaced in Syria. You think that's a coincidence? You know, you'd be shocked at how many Christians are in Palestine. I know the media won't report it, but there's a good amount there. Russia is a strong Christian country. It's not my country, but like they actually build, you know, Catholic churches and stuff. And all of a sudden we're fighting them. There's a real agenda, in my opinion, to just destroy the Christian world. It's already been done in Europe. It's already essentially been done in America. And Russia's one of the only like strong Christian countries left that's not completely caved. And what do you know? We're trying to destroy that. So, you know, I could notice that like Islam is in a way better position because they have a lot of money, a lot of power. All the Islamic countries are starting to get into entertainment. And to their credit, they're not caving. You know, Qatar's not caving. Saudi Arabia caved a little with Cristiano Ronaldo. In my opinion, haram, huge mistake. You know, they're letting Cristiano live with his wife, or his not wife, it's his girlfriend. There's a law in Saudi Arabia. You can't live with a woman unless she's your wife, and they're caving for Cristiano Ronaldo. He brings a lot of money, but that's haram. You know, they shouldn't be doing that, in my opinion, because that's the slippery slope. You let Cristiano Ronaldo do it, next thing you know, you're going to be where America is in 30 years. So, you know, I think they're starting to let the slippery slope in because they want to make entertainment and sports money. But, you know, the Muslim world will end up like America real fast if they don't hold the line. But they're doing a way better job, in my opinion. You know, where it's like they're making money, they're gaining influence, and they're not caving. So I think Christians need to wake up. Because in my view, in the West, Christians have been like controlled to basically like destroy themselves. They're like, oh, I'm Christian, so we got to go fight Syria. I'm Christian, we got to fight Russia. It's like Russia's not winning the war and Ukraine's not winning the war. You know, Russian and Ukrainian Christians are being slaughtered. They're killing each other. They're basically getting manipulated by an outside force to kill each other. It's like two massively Christian countries are killing each other, and we're supporting the side that's becoming less Christian, and we're fighting the side that's the only one that's not. You get what I'm saying? Caving. So when you see the world like this, it's harder to like just join a narrative. I don't dislike Russia or Ukraine, but Ukraine is turning into San Francisco and passing laws for hate speech, and Russia's going the other way. They're like classic Christians, like Islam. People think Islam's so hardcore. Like there's certain rules in Islam that are different than Christianity. But really, like all of these rules that Christians think are so hard in Islam, that's how Christian countries were. If you went to Europe in the 30s and 40s, you also couldn't stay at hotels if you weren't married, because marriage was between a man and a woman, and it was like, immoral to have sex out of wedlock. So they weren't letting you just bang out chicks at hotels. They were making sure you were married in Christian countries. Now it's so far from Christian life that people think it's just Islam. Like, oh, they're the only ones who do that. Like, no, Christians used to do that. And I'm not saying we have to do that, but as far as the slippery slope, like, it did go there. Where do you go now? It did happen. So how do you dial it back? What part do you go back to? That's up for everybody else to figure out. But the Muslim world is definitely like not caving as much. But just my thoughts. God bless you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good day. I'll be back soon, and I'm going to chop this into smaller clips. If you're like, yo, why are you doing a 2-hour live stream? My goal now is to do these not this long. I'm exhausted. It's because I haven't done one in a while. But, chop them up into smaller clips, 10-minute clips, 15-minute clips, so you can see the shorter news report of what's actually going on if you don't want to watch the long one. Long ones are good for podcasts, though. They go up on Spotify and Apple and everything. Thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody on Facebook. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. Thank you to everybody on my free email list and Telegram. A lot of exciting stuff coming up, but this month I'll be working very hard. I'll be back and just crushing out content. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. I'll be back soon.